The pages slid out of my hands before I had read the first one. Nathan had wrapped them in brown paper and tied the package with blue string, the kind of thing that looked thoughtful before you knew what was inside. When the binding struck the edge of my patio table, the manuscript fell open backward. My thumb landed on the acknowledgments. To Ron, I read, who showed me what a father looks like. Nobody spoke. Not Leah beside the cake, not Carol near the sliding door, not Ron with a beer halfway to his mouth. The last sentence was shorter. And to Daniel Mercer, whose absence gave me the story I needed to become a man. My son had just called those papers my birthday gift. I looked up at him. Nathan had his mother's ability to hold his chin steady when the rest of his face wanted to move. How many of these pages did you ask me about? He glanced at Leah, then back at me. I lived them. There are several ways a man can ruin his own birthday. I'd tried most of them over the years. Drinking too much at 41. Arguing with a charcoal grill at 56. Pretending not to care at 62, which only encouraged people to sing louder. At 68, I decided to cut the cake. Well, I said, closing the manuscript, it's a handsome binding. Leah made a sound that might have been a laugh if somebody had stepped on it. Nathan's wife, Paige, stared down into her lemonade. She had known about the book, obviously. Whether she had known about the last sentence was harder to tell. Paige was good at arranging her face into something that could survive a photograph. Dad, Nathan said, chocolate or vanilla? What? The cake. Your sister brought two kinds because she thinks choice is a human right. I brought two kinds because you tell everyone you don't care, and then complain when they choose wrong, Leah said. See? Rights and consequences. Nobody laughed that time. I put the manuscript beside the birthday cards. The top card had a cartoon dog wearing bifocals. Ron had picked it out. I knew because Carol believed birthday cards should have watercolor trees, and a message about the passing of seasons. Ron liked fart jokes and dogs dressed as people. Nathan remained standing on the other side of the table. You can say something, he told me. I did. I asked about the cake, about the book. I slid the knife through the chocolate one. You haven't given me much time with it. You read the acknowledgement. I read 2 lines. Those 2 lines didn't come out of nowhere. No, Carol said quietly, they didn't. Leah set down the stack of paper plates harder than necessary. Can we not do this while Dad is holding a knife? It's a cake knife, Carol said. Mom, that is not the comforting distinction you think it is? Ron lowered his beer. Maybe we should all take a breath. He was always asking people to take breaths, as if he'd been appointed regional manager of oxygen. It would have been easier to dislike him if he weren't usually the kindest person in the room. I wiped frosting off the knife with my thumb. Ron, you want an end piece? Sure. Carol, vanilla. Small. You've been asking for small pieces of cake since 1983. And you've been ignoring me since 1983. That's not true. In 1996, I gave you a small piece. Ron coughed into his fist. Leah looked away, but I saw her smile. Carol did too. For half a second, we were back in the old kitchen with the yellow countertops, sparring over nothing because the larger things hadn't yet become safe to name. Then her eyes found the manuscript, and the smile left. Nathan pulled out a chair. He didn't sit. This was supposed to be me, including you. In what? My life? You handed me 200 pages explaining I wasn't in it. 284. Paige closed her eyes. That's better, I said. I was worried there wasn't enough absence to go around. Daniel, Carol warned. She had said my name that way through most of our marriage, 2 syllables carrying an entire employee review. I passed Ron his cake. End piece. Extra frosting. Thank you. You're welcome. Apparently you're the father I always wanted to be. Ron nearly dropped the plate. Nathan's face changed then. Not much. A tightening around the mouth, a little flare in the nostrils. I had seen the same look when he was 26, and I told him the engine knocking in his used Jeep was not, as he insisted, just a Jeep sound. That's not fair to Ron, he said. No, it isn't. I gave Carol her small slice. Then I cut one for Paige and one for Nathan, although he hadn't asked. The 6 of us stood around my patio while the citronella candle smoked and a neighbor's leaf blower whined somewhere beyond the fence. 2 flies discovered the potato salad. Leah waved them off with a plastic fork. This was not how the afternoon had begun. An hour earlier, Nathan had arrived late and smiling, with the brown package tucked under his arm. He hugged me with one hand and kept the other around the gift. Sorry, he'd said. Paige wanted to stop for ice. Paige had looked at him. You wanted to stop for ice. Marriage, I told her. The sacred bond of correcting small lies. She laughed. Nathan did too. That was the thing I would remember later. He had been happy when he came through the gate. He helped me move the cooler into the shade. He asked whether I'd fixed the rattling vent in the workshop. I told him it only rattled when the wind came from the northeast, so I had solved the problem by developing a prejudice against the northeast. He said, normal people replace vents. Normal people pay $37 for a piece of aluminum they could straighten with pliers. And this is why I have stories. I thought he meant the stories sons told about fathers who save bent screws in coffee cans. Nathan had always been good at telling those. At my retirement dinner, he did 5 minutes about the jar of used nails on my workbench. He described me pulling out 3 bent ones to hang a picture rather than buying a new box. Everybody laughed, including me. Then he talked about how I drove across 2 counties when his first apartment flooded, bringing a wet vacuum, 2 box fans, and enough sandwiches for everyone in the building. He'd put his hand on my shoulder and said, "My dad won't tell you he loves you, but he'll remove 600 gallons of water from your carpet." That had gotten a bigger laugh. I had taken it as affection. Maybe it was. People think memories stay put once you make them. They don't. They keep working after you leave the room. Now, Nathan pushed his cake around with his fork and said, "You haven't even asked what it's about. I got a clue from the last page. It's about more than you. That's reassuring. It's about our family, the divorce, Mom having to start over, Leah and me growing up in the middle of all that. Leah stabbed a fly. You interviewed me twice. Yes, you told me it was background. It was. Background usually doesn't get dialogue. You haven't read it. Neither is he, and apparently he's the main weather system." Nathan looked at Carol. "Did you tell her?" Carol's expression went flat. "I told Leah there were sections she might want to see. You promised you wouldn't circulate it." "I didn't circulate anything." "Could we stop saying circulate?" Ron asked. "It makes the potato salad sound contagious." Paige laughed before she could stop herself. Nathan shot her a look, and she picked up her glass. I watched all of them without seeming to. It was a skill I'd developed in a house where speaking too soon could add 3 days to an argument. Carol had read at least some of the manuscript. Leah knew she was in it. Paige knew enough to dread the afternoon. Ron had either read nothing or was the best actor among us. I was the only one who'd thought the package might be a set of wood chisels. "Why today?" I asked. Nathan's shoulders loosened slightly. A real question was a safer territory. "Because it's finished. Because the advance copies came yesterday. Because I wanted you to have the first one, with that written at the end. It's honest. So, is a bathroom scale. Most people don't wrap one for a birthday." Carol put down her fork. "Daniel? He worked on this for 3 years. I'm not criticizing the wrapping. You're doing what you always do." "What's that?" "Making a joke so nobody can get near you." There it was, not loud. Carol had never needed volume when precision would do. I looked at the manuscript beside the cards. The blue string lay loose under it, one end dipped in frosting. Nathan said, "I knew you'd react like this. Then I hate to disappoint you. You're not even angry. Would that help the book?" His fork stopped moving. Paige whispered, "Nate, no, it's fine," he said. "This is exactly what I mean. He thinks if he stays calm, everybody else looks unreasonable." I could have answered that. I had several answers ready, polished by decades of never saying them. Instead, I cut another piece of cake. Leah took the knife from me. "You're bleeding," she said. A shallow line crossed my thumb where the blade had caught the skin. I hadn't felt it. She led me to the kitchen sink, holding my wrist as if I might escape. "I can manage a cut. You once wrapped electrical tape around your palm and kept building a fence. The fence is still standing. Your standards for success worry me." Behind us, the conversation on the patio dropped into murmurs. Carol's voice, Nathan's, Ron trying to put cushions over something sharp. Leah rinsed my thumb under cold water. "How much did you tell him?" I asked. She kept her eyes on my hand. "Not what he wrote. That wasn't my question. I told him what I remembered." "Which parts?" "The parts I remembered, Dad." She opened the drawer beside the sink, found a bandage, rejected it, and chose a larger one. My daughter had been overestimating my injuries since she was old enough to drive me to urgent care. "Did you read his pages?" I asked. "Some." "And?" She peeled the backing from the bandage. "Read them yourself. That good? That complicated?" She pressed the bandage over my thumb, then looked at me. He isn't lying about everything. I didn't say he was. No. You didn't say much of anything. That's sort of the family business. From the patio, Nathan called, "Paige, we should go." Leah released my hand. "Happy birthday. Thank you. I got you a level. I already have 4. This one has magnets. I considered that. Best birthday ever." She smiled, but her eyes shone in a way that made me look toward the sink. Nathan left without saying goodbye. Paige hugged me and whispered that the cake was good. Carol carried 3 plates into the kitchen, though nobody had asked her to, then set them on the counter as if she'd brought evidence. Ron paused at the door. "For what it's worth," he said, "I never asked to be in anybody's acknowledgement. I know. I don't think I showed him what a father looks like. You showed him what you look like. He seems to think highly of you." Ron nodded, uncomfortable with both the compliment and the circumstance around it. After they left, Leah packed the leftovers into my refrigerator. She didn't ask whether I wanted company. She knew I would say no, and she was angry enough not to rescue me from the answer. By 7, the house was quiet. The manuscript waited on the patio table beside the cartoon dog and bifocals. I carried both inside. The card went on the mantel. The pages went to my workshop. I set them beneath the hanging lamp, removed the frosting-stained string, and opened to page 1. Nathan's first sentence was about the night his father left home. According to him, I never looked back. I remembered sitting in my truck for 53 minutes, staring at his upstairs window. Then, I turned the page. The next sentence said I had packed in silence. That part was true. The night I left, Carol stood in the kitchen with her arms folded while I put shirts, socks, and 2 pairs of work pants into an old canvas duffel. I didn't take the good suitcase because we'd bought it together, and in the moment that seemed like an important distinction. Nathan wrote that his mother had begged me to stay. She hadn't. Carol had said, "If you walk out that door, don't expect me to explain you to them." I'd answered, "You're the one asking me to go." She said, "Does that make it easier?" It did not, but I let her believe it did. In Nathan's version, I carried the bag through the living room, passed my children without looking at them, and drove away. He had been watching from the upstairs window, waiting for me to turn back. I took a red carpenter's pencil from the jar on my workbench. The tip was flat from marking lumber. I sharpened it with my pocket knife, letting the shavings curl onto the table. In the margin, I wrote, "I waited in the truck," then I crossed it out. It looked defensive. Worse, it looked small. A man could abandon his family after 53 minutes as easily as after 5. I turned another page. Nathan had structure. I'll give him that. He knew when to leave a scene and when to bring a sentence down hard. He described my old Chevy coughing to life under the upstairs window, the headlights sweeping across the house, his face appearing briefly in the glass. I didn't remember seeing him. That bothered me more than the lie. The first chapter ended with Carol standing in the front yard in her robe, holding herself together as I disappeared down the road. Carol had not come outside. She'd gone upstairs and shut her bedroom door before I finished packing. It had been October, and she hadn't owned a robe like the one Nathan described until years later. Blue, with white flowers. Ron gave it to her for Christmas. I wrote Carol wasn't outside, then erased that too. At 11:30, I made coffee. The workshop had a small machine I kept for winter mornings. It produced coffee strong enough to remove paint. Nathan once told me it tasted like something a detective drank before making a career-ending decision. I'd laughed so hard, I bought him the same machine for his apartment. The coffee maker appeared on page 27. In the book, it became a symbol of my refusal to share ordinary pleasures. I drank alone, standing over my workbench, while the rest of the family gathered in the kitchen. Nathan remembered the smell of it coming through the vent, bitter and burnt, like a warning that I was awake but unavailable. I looked at the machine. "Congratulations," I told it. "Your literature." It hissed at me. There were good details in the early chapters, my thermos rolling under the seat of the truck, the way I counted stairs whenever I climbed them, the little paper packets of crackers I kept in the glove compartment long after they went stale. Nathan remembered me tapping door frames twice after hanging them, listening for something only I could hear. He had noticed me closely. That was almost worse. Around midnight, I reached the years after the divorce. According to Nathan, contact with me dwindled to obligatory holidays and short phone calls. He made no mention of the Wednesdays I drove into town to have dinner with him and Leah, though I understood why. Those dinners had lasted 6 months, maybe 7. Carol and I argued about where I could take them, when I should bring them back, whether my apartment smelled like cigarette smoke from the tenant downstairs. Eventually, I started taking more overtime. Carol stopped asking which Wednesday I wanted. I had told myself teenagers did not need a father forcing them into a booth at Denny's twice a month. I had not asked them. I picked up the pencil and wrote, "True," beside the sentence. He made it easy to stop expecting him. The word looked severe on the page. I left it. At 12:40, the phone rang. I knew it would be Leah. Nathan never called after 10 unless something was broken. "You still awake?" she asked. "No." "Are you reading it?" "I'm practicing my sleeping voice." She sighed. "How far?" "Page 63. "That's fast. Some of the words are short." "Dad, you inherited your mother's inability to appreciate timing. I inherited your inability to admit when I'm worried." I leaned back in the shop chair. It complained under me. "Did you call to trade family observations?" "I left the cake pan. It's in the dishwasher." "You don't put that pan in the dishwasher. I'm 68. I'm experimenting with danger." "You're in the workshop, aren't you?" I looked toward the closed door, as though she might be peering through it. "How would you know? You answer faster out there. The signal's better." That was not true, but it sounded true enough that I almost admired it. "What page are you on?" she asked again. "The part where I ruin birthdays by pretending not to care about them." "Oh, you remember that?" "I remember you telling us not to make a fuss and then getting quiet when we didn't." "That sounds unpleasant." It was confusing. I turned to the next page. Nathan described my 52nd birthday, when nobody called until after dinner. He wrote that I said, "Just another day," then kept Leah on the phone for 40 minutes talking about a leak in the basement. I remembered the leak. I remembered her sounding distracted. "I'm sorry," I said. Leah went silent. The pencil rested between my fingers. "For the cake pan?" she asked. "For making you guess." She took a breath that crackled against the phone. "You're only on page 63. Pace yourself." "Good night, Leah. Don't call Nathan tonight." "I wasn't planning to." "Don't call Mom either." "I wasn't planning to do that twice." "Get some sleep." After we hung up, I set the phone face down. The chapter about Nathan's college graduation began on page 81. He wrote that he searched the crowd for me and found an empty seat beside Carol. Ron sat on her other side, clapping louder than anyone when Nathan's name was called. Afterward, Nathan watched other families take photographs while Carol invented excuses for me. I had been there, not in the seat beside Carol. I knew better than to put myself there. I had stood near the back of the auditorium beside a concrete pillar. Wearing the gray suit Leah said made me look like a funeral director. I saw Nathan cross the stage. I heard Ron yell his name. I left before the photographs because Carol had told me that morning Nathan didn't want tension on his day. That was true too. She had said it in the parking lot while Ron helped Nathan carry something inside. "Just give him this one day," she'd told me. "He wants to enjoy it." I had asked, "Did he say that?" She'd looked tired. "Do you really need him to?" I didn't, or I told myself I didn't. On the manuscript page, Nathan described calling my apartment that evening and getting the answering machine. He didn't know I was driving home. I wrote, "I was there." My hand hovered over the words. Then I added, "I left without telling you." Both statements fit in the margin. Neither improved the other. At 1:15, I found the first thing that made me put the pages down and walk outside. The night air had cooled. Paper plates still filled the trash can by the patio. Somebody had left a half cup of lemonade on the fence post, and ants circled the rim with more cooperation than my family had shown all afternoon. Nathan had written about losing his first serious job at 31. The company sold, half his department was cut, and he came to my house because he could not bring himself to tell Carol yet. He sat in the workshop while I changed the oil in his car. I remembered him talking fast, angry at his manager, the company, himself. I remembered thinking he needed one useful thing before he drove home: fresh oil, a working brake light, enough gas to get through the week. In his version, he cried. I had forgotten that. He wrote that I kept my head beneath the hood and said, "Feeling sorry for yourself won't pay the rent." I did say something close to that. I remembered the words after I read them. What I meant was that his job did not decide his worth, and he would find another one. What I said was, Sitting here feeling sorry won't fix anything. Then I handed him his keys. He had wanted me to look at him. I went back inside and wrote, "True." The chapters that followed were less true in larger ways. Nathan claimed I refused to visit his first apartment after the divorce. I had installed the kitchen shelves. He said I ignored his calls during the week. His marriage to Melissa ended. He had called once, at 2 a.m, and hung up before I answered. I called back 3 times. The next day, Carol told me he needed space. Nathan described spending that week with Ron. I wrote Ron's name in the margin, then stared at it. The book made our lives sound like a relay race where I had dropped the baton and Ron picked it up. That wasn't how it had felt. Ron never took anything from me. He just stepped into every space I left, unguarded. At 2, I reached a scene set in my kitchen after Nathan's divorce. He wrote that I had offered him money instead of comfort. That happened. He did not write that he accepted the money. I laughed once, quietly, and hated myself for it. The manuscript wanted clean injuries. Nathan standing wounded in a doorway. Me refusing to open it. Carol rebuilding a family from splinters. Ron arriving with his patience and dependable hands. Real life had more fingerprints. Nathan accepted my help. Called when he needed repairs, showed up for Sunday dinners, and told funny stories about me at parties. I mistook access for closeness. He mistook resentment for understanding. We had spent years using each other's preferred language just enough to avoid learning a new one. At 3:15, I fell asleep in the chair. The workshop light was still on when I woke to someone knocking. My neck had stiffened at an angle that suggested permanent damage. The manuscript lay open across my chest. Leah knocked again. "I know you're in there. You keep saying that. Like you have a warrant. Open the door." I unlocked it. She stood on the step, holding 2 coffees and a paper bag spotted with grease. "You look terrible," she said. "It's hereditary." She handed me a cup and walked past before I invited her. Morning light came through the dusty windows, falling across the open pages. "How far did you get?" 146. Her eyes dropped to the red marks. "You're correcting it?" "No, that looks like correcting. I'm having disagreements with the margins." She picked up the page lying loose beside the stack. It was the chapter about Nathan's divorce. "You wrote 'true' here." It was. Leah read the paragraph, her mouth tightening. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. You came over before 8 with coffee. It's never nothing before 8. She set the page down. "He used something I told him." "What?" "A conversation from that week. Mine, not his." "Did he change it?" "He put his name where mine was." The workshop seemed to become quieter around us. Leah looked at the manuscript as though it had shifted while she wasn't watching. "He didn't just write you wrong," she said. "He wrote himself into places he wasn't." "What did he take?" I asked. Leah folded her arms. "Do you remember when Paul left?" I remembered Paul. He wore expensive boots he refused to scuff and used the phrase emotional bandwidth when he wanted to avoid doing something. Leah had been engaged to him for 11 months. I celebrated their breakup privately, which did not make the breakup hurt her less. "You came here," I said. "I came here at 2 a.m. I sat right there." She pointed to the wooden stool near the drill press. "You gave me coffee," she continued. "Then you offered to cover my half of the lease until I figured things out. I thought you might need it." "I know. I told you I didn't need help paying for the apartment. I needed somebody to tell me I wasn't impossible to stay with." The line appeared in Nathan's chapter almost word for word. In his version, he said it after Melissa left. I had responded by putting an envelope of money on the table between us. I looked at Leah. "What did I say to you?" "You said Paul was an idiot. That sounds like me." "You said it while looking for your checkbook. That also sounds like me." She smiled, though there was no pleasure in it. "Did you tell Nathan about that night?" "A few years ago. We were talking about our divorces. You weren't married." He said a broken engagement counted as a practice divorce. "Your brother has always been generous with categories that benefit him." He remembered the line. I guess he liked it. I took the page from her and read the paragraph again. Nathan had improved the rhythm. He'd changed apartment to house and removed my remark about Paul being an idiot. The new version was cleaner. A son asked his father for comfort, and the father answered with money. It sounded more like us than the truth did. "Did you tell him he could use it?" I asked. "No." "Are you going to?" "Am I going to what?" "Tell him." Leah walked to the far end of the workbench. She ran one finger along the edge, collecting a line of sawdust. "If I say something, he'll turn it into taking your side. Would you be?" I'd be taking my side. That may be too advanced for this family. She gave me a dry look. You joke when you're cornered. Mom was right about that. Your mother has been right several times. We agreed not to make a spectacle of it. Leah picked up one of the coffees she'd brought. The problem is, if I confront him, he'll ask what else is wrong. Then I'll have to tell him. What else is wrong? She stared into the plastic lid. The shop clock ticked above the door. It had been losing 4 minutes a week for 9 years. I knew how to fix it. I liked knowing exactly how wrong it was. He makes Mom sound helpless, Leah said. She wasn't. No? He makes Ron sound like he arrived with a toolbox and rebuilt us. Ron can't hang a shelf. I know. Mom has to hide the level or he gets ambitious. What did she tell Nathan? I don't know everything. She showed me one chapter because she was worried about a story involving Grandma's funeral. What story? Read it. I hated that answer more each time somebody gave it. Leah put her coffee down. Dad, you need to understand something. Nathan didn't sit down and decide to lie about you. He believes the shape of this. That makes the details less important. It makes arguing over details harder. I'm not arguing. You're writing in red pencil. It was the closest one. You own 47 pencils. That accusation is unsupported. She almost smiled again. Then she touched the manuscript with 2 fingers. Don't send this back angry. I'm not angry. Yes, you are. Leah, you're doing it right now. Doing what? Getting quieter so I have to raise my voice. Then you get to be the calm one. Her eyes had filled, though her voice stayed level. I felt the old impulse to hand her something. A clean rag, the other coffee, a task. I kept my hands on the bench. I don't know how else to be angry, I said. Leah looked at me for a long moment. That, she said finally. You could start with that. She took the cake pan from the dishwasher before leaving. It had survived. The painted flowers around the rim were faded but intact. I went back to page 146. Nathan had placed Leah's line in a chapter called The Cost of Asking. The chapter argued that I trained both of my children not to expect tenderness, then blamed them for approaching me only when they needed practical help. I wanted to reject it because he had stolen the best sentence. I couldn't. I wrote true beside one paragraph and Leah's words beside another. Then I added, ask her. The pencil moved more easily after that. On page 162, Nathan described me refusing to visit him in the hospital after an emergency appendectomy. He had been 27. Carol and Ron stayed until visiting hours ended. I arrived after midnight because I'd been working out of town and sat beside him until 5 in the morning. Nathan slept through it. A nurse told me he was stable. I left before he woke because I had to return a company truck by 7. He woke to an empty chair. I wrote, I was there. You were asleep. Then, beneath it, I wrote, I should have left a note. At 11, Carol came through the side gate carrying the glass serving dish she had used for potato salad. You forgot this, she said. It's yours. I know, I forgot it. You said I forgot it. I meant the general you. I'm the only one here. She walked past me into the workshop. Carol had always believed an open door counted as an invitation if she knew the person who owned it. Her eyes went directly to the manuscript. You stayed up all night, most of it. How far are you? 203. She glanced at the red marks. Nathan isn't going to like that. He gave me the first copy. He gave it to you to read, not grade. I've given no grades. The handwriting alone would lower them. Carol set the dish on my table saw. I moved it to a shelf before grease from the potato salad damaged anything. She watched me wipe the glass bottom. You're angry, she said. That's what Leah tells me. You hide it better with her. Experience. Don't do that. What? Make our marriage into a collection of clever lines. I folded the rag and put it down. Did you read the whole thing? I asked. Not the whole thing. How much? Most of the chapters about the divorce. And you thought they were accurate? I thought they were how Nathan experienced it. He describes you standing in the yard when I left. Carol looked toward the window. You weren't in the yard, I said. No. You were upstairs. Yes. Did you tell him that? I don't remember. Did you tell him you asked me to leave? Her mouth tightened. We both knew the marriage was over. That wasn't my question. You want a transcript now? He seems to. She looked down at her hands. Her nails were painted a pale pink, one chipped at the corner. Carol used to repaint a chipped nail the moment she saw it. Ron had apparently introduced her to imperfection. I told you I couldn't live that way anymore, she said. You told me to pack a bag. and you packed one. I sat outside for almost an hour. I know. That stopped me. You knew? I watched from the bedroom. The workshop's vent rattled once in the morning breeze. Why didn't you come out? I asked. Carol gave me a tired, incredulous look. Why didn't you come back in? I opened my mouth, then closed it. That's the part you never understand, she said. You always waited for someone else to make the emotional move. You'd drive across the state, work until your hands bled, give away money you couldn't afford to lose. But ask you to cross one room without being invited, and suddenly it was impossible. You told the family I left. You did leave, at your request. Would you have stayed if I hadn't asked you to go? The honest answer took too long. Carol nodded. That's what I thought. She reached for the manuscript, but I put my hand on it. I'm not taking it. Then why did you reach? I wanted to see what you wrote. You can ask Nathan when he's done with my edition. This doesn't have to become a war. It became something when he printed it. He has worked hard, Daniel. Harder than you know. This book could change things for him. What things? His career? The way people see his work. He finally took all that pain and made something from it. I tapped the page beneath my hand. Some of it wasn't his. Carol's gaze shifted. You knew about Leah's line? I asked. What line? I believed her confusion. That did not comfort me. He took a conversation she had with me and put himself in her place. Writers combine things. People aren't cake batter. He is trying to tell the emotional truth. Whose emotions? She exhaled and looked around the workshop, at the labeled drawers and coffee cans and tools hanging in outlines on the wall. You'll reduce every page to whether the chair was on the left or the right. No, I'll reduce it to whether I was in the room. And if you were there physically, you think that proves the point? The question landed because she knew where to put it. Carol picked up the empty serving dish. Don't punish him for telling you how it felt, she said. Did you ever tell him how it felt for me? That was your job. She left through the side gate. I stood in the workshop listening to the latch bounce twice before catching. On page 218, Nathan wrote about Carol rebuilding their life alone. She learned to repair faucets, negotiate insurance, and sleep in a bed that no longer held the shape of a husband who wasn't coming back. I underlined alone. Ron had been dating her within 9 months. I didn't hold that against either of them, but it seemed unfair to erase him from the years before he became useful to Nathan's ending. On page 241, Nathan described my habit of appearing during emergencies and disappearing when ordinary life resumed. True. On page 256, he said, I never apologized for the divorce. Not true. I had apologized to Carol in a parking lot outside a dentist's office. I had apologized to Leah during a thunderstorm that knocked out her power. I had apologized to Nathan while replacing a broken garbage disposal in his first house. Nathan had been under the sink with me. He said, hand me the wrench before I finished. I had accepted that as his answer. By late afternoon, 10 passages carried names in the margins. 6 carried true. 4 held both. I reached the acknowledgments again. The blue string remained on the corner of the workbench, stiff where frosting had dried into it. I used the flat of my palm to smooth the last page. Beneath Nathan's final sentence, I wrote slowly, I loved you badly in some years, and faithfully in all of them. I will apologize for the first. The pencil tip broke. I sharpened it, swept the shaving aside, and finished. I will not apologize for the second, and I will not lend my silence to a lie. I read the sentence twice. It sounded better than I felt. That was one danger of putting things on paper. A man could appear resolved while sitting in yesterday's clothes with frosting on his pencil. I took a photograph of the last page, not because I expected Nathan to destroy it, but because I knew how easily certainty could change after a conversation. Then I sent him a text. Finished. You can pick it up. He replied before I set down the phone. I'll come now. Nathan lived 35 minutes away. He arrived in 26. His tires crackled over the loose gravel beside my house, and the truck door shut hard enough to shake something metallic in the bed. I remained at the workbench. If I went outside, he would accuse me of meeting him like a customer. If I waited in the house, he would say I was making him walk into my territory. The workshop was my territory, but at least the coffee was nearby. Nathan came through the open door without knocking. He had changed out of the blue shirt he wore to the party and put on an old gray sweatshirt. He looked younger in it, though not young. Tired men often looked like earlier versions of themselves. You finished all of it? Yes. In one night, and part of a morning. You should have taken more time. You arrived 26 minutes after my message. That's different. I'm sure it is. The manuscript sat at the center of the bench, with the string coiled on top. Nathan reached for it, saw the red marks along the edges, and stopped. What did you do? I read it. You wrote in it. You gave it to me. I gave you the first bound copy. Then I'm glad I made it unique. He picked it up and flipped through the pages. At first he moved carefully. Then he saw the notes, and his thumb began snapping the paper faster. You fact-checked my childhood? I checked my life. He found the first true and paused. The anger in his face lost its footing for a moment. You agree with this? I wrote true. I can read. Then the binding expense was worth it. He looked at the paragraph about making it easy for him to stop expecting me. His eyes moved over it twice. How many things did you mark true? 6. Out of 284 pages. I didn't count the pages where you described weather. This is exactly what I knew you'd do. You knew I'd agree with you 6 times? I knew you'd turn it into an inspection report. Wrong robe, wrong chair. You were technically in the auditorium, so I'm not allowed to remember feeling like you weren't. You're allowed to remember anything. How generous. You're not allowed to move your sister's words into your mouth and call that memory. His fingers stopped on the page. Leah talked to you. She came for her cake pan. Did she read this? She'd already read some. Mom showed her. You'll have to ask Mom. His jaw tightened. Did Leah tell you I stole from her? She said the conversation happened to her. It's a composite. No, it's a replacement. That's how writing works. You combine moments. You compress timelines. You give the reader something they can follow. You gave the reader her sentence. She told me that story because we were talking about what it was like coming to you when we were hurt. It represented both of us. Did you tell her you were going to represent her? Nathan put the pages down. You don't understand what a memoir is. I understand what a sister is. Oh, now you're defending Leah. I didn't realize there was a waiting period. You spent our entire lives letting Mom handle anything emotional, and now you're the family advocate. The words landed cleanly. Nathan was good at this, even without a keyboard. I poured coffee into a chipped mug. My hand shook just enough that the stream touched the rim. He saw it. Something in his expression softened, then closed again. I didn't write this to hurt you, he said. You wrapped it. I wanted you to see it before strangers did. You could have handed it to me 6 months ago. It wasn't finished. Then, it wasn't ready. When did Carol read it? He looked away. That's what I thought. Mom was part of the process. I was part of the product. You were part of my life. In the acknowledgments, I was an absence. That sentence isn't saying you were never physically present. You keep using physically like it's a technicality. Because you keep using errands as proof of love. I set the mug down. Nathan looked at the line I'd written beneath his acknowledgment. His lips moved slightly as he read. The color rose up his neck. You won't lend your silence to a lie, he said. What is that supposed to mean? It means I'm done pretending. Quiet is the same thing as kindness. Are you threatening to go after the book? No. Call the publisher? Write something? Tell people I fabricated it? No. Then what? If somebody asks me what happened, I'll answer. He stared at me. It was a plain sentence. I had not expected it to frighten him. You know what that would do, he said. No. What would it do? You'd be making me defend every emotional memory like I was on trial. You put quotation marks around things people didn't say. Some of them did say those things. Some. I changed identifying details. You changed identities. He slapped the manuscript closed. The sound stirred the pencil shavings. This could change my career. So your mother mentioned? Of course she did. She's proud of you. You say that like it's evidence against me. I'm saying she told me what this book could do for you. Nobody has told me what it's supposed to do to the rest of us. It tells the truth about a kind of father people recognize. There it was. Not my father. A kind of father. I leaned back against the workbench. Did you need me to be simpler? Nathan's eyes narrowed. For the reader, I said. Did I need to fit better? You think this was easy? I think you're talented. That unsettled him more than an insult would have. I nodded toward the manuscript. You can write. You notice things. The coffee smell through the vent, the stale crackers in my truck, the way I tapped door frames. I didn't know you paid that much attention. I was always paying attention. I see that. You don't get to turn admiration into an acquittal. I'm not asking for one. Then what do you want? The answer should have been obvious. An apology. Corrections. My name pulled out of the last sentence. Carol removed from the front yard and placed behind the bedroom window. A note left beside Nathan's hospital bed. A photograph after graduation that never happened. What I wanted was for him to remember wanting me. I could not say that without making it another demand on him. I want you to ask the people you used whether you got them right. It's my book. Then why give it to me? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. A lawnmower started 2 houses down. Somewhere near the back fence, a bird repeated the same 3 notes until they became irritating. Nathan wrapped the blue string around the manuscript. The knot came out uneven. Paige said this was a bad idea, he said. Paige is observant. She said I should mail it. That would have saved gas. She said you might read the ending first. I looked at him. Nathan pulled the knot tighter. You always do that with instruction manuals. This wasn't an instruction manual. No. I guess it wasn't. He tucked the package beneath his arm and turned toward the door. At the threshold, he stopped. I need your help with the back steps Saturday, he said. The request came out automatically. So did my answer. No. He looked over his shoulder. No, you can't, or no, you won't. Both. You said last week you'd look at them. Last week I hadn't read your book. His face hardened. So, you are punishing me. No, I'm not available. You're standing in a room full of tools. That isn't the same thing. What am I supposed to do, let the steps rot? Call a carpenter. You are a carpenter, not on Saturday. What are you doing? I don't know yet. Nathan laughed once. It was a sharp, disbelieving sound. This is childish. It's a Saturday. It's never just one thing with you. On that, we agreed. He walked out carrying the manuscript against his ribs. His truck backed down the drive too fast, one tire dropping into the shallow ditch before he corrected. I watched until the taillights disappeared. The phone rang inside the workshop. For one foolish second, I thought Nathan had called from the end of the road. The number belonged to the Tri-County Adult Trades Program. I knew it because I had ignored it twice that month. I let it ring through to voicemail. A woman's voice filled the shop. Daniel, this is Elaine Becker. I'm making one last attempt before I bother somebody else. We still need an instructor for the restoration course. 12 weeks beginning next Monday. Furnished apartment is available during the week, and I promise the students are less stubborn than the furniture. Call me today if you've reconsidered. Elaine had been making one last attempt for nearly a year. The first time she called, Carol needed help replacing a section of fence after a storm. She could have hired someone, but I still had the post hole digger. The second time, Nathan and Paige were moving into their house. Nathan said nobody packed a truck the way I did. Leah had laughed and called it my love language. Elaine called again in the spring, but Leah was changing offices and needed shelves built. After that, I stopped asking for details. Being needed was easier when I didn't keep a list of what it cost. I played the voicemail a second time. 2 counties away was not another country. The drive took a little under 2 hours in decent traffic. The apartment was above the old administration building, according to the brochure Elaine had mailed me. Weekends would still belong to me. That had been my argument against going. Nobody needed me on a Tuesday until suddenly they did. I called Elaine. She answered with, "If this is Daniel Mercer saying no again, I'm charging you for emotional damages." "What kind of furniture?" There was a pause. "In the course?" "Yes, chairs, tables, cabinets, some veneer work, basic structural repair." "Why? How many students?" 12 registered, all adults, mixed experience." "What time Monday?" Another pause, longer this time. 9. I'll be there at 8. Elaine made a sound between a laugh and a gasp. "Are you serious? For 12 weeks. Daniel, I could kiss you. You'll reconsider when you taste the coffee." We spent 10 minutes discussing tools, access to the shop, and the condition of the furnished apartment. When the call ended, the room looked the same. The labeled drawers, the hanging levels, the chair where Leah had once asked me to tell her she wasn't impossible to stay with. My phone buzzed. Nathan had sent a photograph of the last page. My words glowed beneath his on the screen. "You really think loving us badly deserves credit?" I typed 3 answers and erased them. Finally, I wrote, "No, I think loving you faithfully deserves the truth." The message showed as delivered. He did not respond. I put the phone down and pulled an old travel case from beneath the bench. The zipper stuck halfway around. Inside were 2 shirts I hadn't worn in years, and a receipt from a motel Carol and I stayed in during our last good vacation. I held the receipt for a moment, then set it in the drawer with the other things I had saved because throwing them away felt too much like deciding what they meant. The travel case smelled like dust. I carried it into the house and put it on my bed. Packing exposed how little of my life traveled well. Work shirts were easy, socks, underwear, shaving kit. I put 2 pairs of shoes beside the case and stood there deciding whether a 12-week teaching job required the brown ones Carol used to call respectable. The harder question was what a man took to an apartment he had already spent a year refusing to occupy. I packed the little radio from the kitchen. Then I took it back out because there would be a radio there. I added 3 books and removed 2. I carried my own pillow to the bed, felt foolish, and left it anyway. The phone rang while I was wrapping a ceramic coffee mug in a t-shirt. Leah said, "What did you do?" I wrapped a mug. "Nathan says you're leaving. I'm teaching a restoration course." "Where?" I told her. "For how long?" 12 weeks. "You decided this today?" "I've been deciding it for a year. Today I ran out of reasons to say no." "Does this have anything to do with the book?" "No." "Dad?" "Some." "How much is some?" "I don't own an instrument capable of measuring it." She exhaled into the phone. "Are you coming back on weekends?" "If I want." "That wasn't the arrangement last time you considered it." "The last time I considered it, everybody's weekends already belonged to somebody else." "Mine don't belong to you. You needed office shelves. Once. And help moving the desk. Because you offered. I know." That ended us for a moment. Offering had always been my safest form of manipulation. Nobody could accuse you of demanding closeness when you arrived with a drill and left before the thank you became personal. Leah said, "Nathan thinks you're doing this to make a point." Nathan thinks a lot of things are about him. He recently published several. The book isn't published yet. Good. That gives him time. For what? To decide whether he wants it to be. She was quiet long enough that I heard a cabinet close on her end. "I talked to him," she said. "How did that go?" "He says the line was a composite. He told me. He also said I gave him permission to use anything we talked about." "Did you?" I told him, "You should write about this stuff." "That's not permission. It isn't nothing either." I sat on the edge of the bed. Leah had inherited Carol's talent for finding the one fact that made everybody less comfortable. "What did you tell him?" I asked. "I told him I wouldn't have shared it if I knew he was going to put himself in my chair." "And?" "He apologized." I waited. "He said he'll change the sentence." "That's good. He thinks you made me confront him." "I didn't. I know. I told him that." Something in my chest loosened, though I had no right to make her decision into my relief. "Do you want help packing?" she asked. "No, I'm coming anyway." She arrived carrying the magnetic level she'd bought me and a roll of trash bags. "The level is for the job," she said. "The bags are because your suitcase smells like a dead attic. It's canvas. It's biological." She emptied the case onto the bed and took it outside. While I objected from the doorway, she sprayed it with the garden hose, scrubbed it with dish soap, and hung it over a patio chair. "That won't be dry by morning. You have other luggage. The good suitcase was your mother's. It has been divorced from her for 12 years. It may still have feelings." Leah found it in the hall closet and rolled it into the bedroom. It was dark green, with one scuffed wheel from a trip Carol and I took to New Mexico. I had not used it since. "You kept Mom's suitcase but threw out the sofa?" she asked. The sofa hurt my back. "The suitcase hurt your marriage?" The suitcase knew what it did. She opened it and began folding shirts I had already folded. "You're folding out my system." "You don't have a system." The blue shirts were horizontal. They're all blue. That's why orientation matters. We argued about socks for several minutes. It was the most comfortable conversation I'd had since the birthday. When the suitcase was nearly full, she sat beside it. "Tell me the truth," she said. "If Nathan hadn't brought the book, would you have called Elaine?" "No." Leah nodded as if I'd confirmed something disappointing. "But that doesn't mean I'm going because of him. That sounds exactly like going because of him. I'm going because I said no 3 times for all of you. We didn't ask you to. You did. Just not directly. And you liked it." There was no accusation in her voice. That made it harder to dodge. "Yes," I said. "You liked being the person everyone called." "Yes." "Then don't leave us an invoice now." I looked down at my hands. A half moon of red pencil remained beneath one thumbnail. "I'm not," I said. "You told Nathan you wouldn't fix his steps because you read his book. I told him I wasn't available. You said last week you'd do it. I'm allowed to change my mind. You are. But call it what it is. What is it? Punishment." The words sat between us. I had imagined a boundary would feel clean, a straight edge. Instead, it looked a lot like something I had criticized in other people. He handed me a book that says, "I wasn't there," I said. Then, while carrying it out, he asked me to show up with tools. I know. What was I supposed to say? "You could say you're hurt. I did." "You said no." "That's close." "It isn't." She picked up the magnetic level and placed it on top of my shirts. "I don't think you should fix his steps," she said. "I think he should know why. He knows. He knows you're angry. That's not the same as knowing you're hurt." I closed the suitcase. "You have an irritating faith in vocabulary. I spent years trying to interpret grunts." Her phone buzzed. She looked at it and rolled her eyes. "Mom wants to know whether you're actually leaving." "What did you tell her?" "That you're joining the circus." "Tell her I'm too old for aerial work. I told her to call you." Cruel. Leah took the wet canvas bag off the patio chair before she left and hung it over the shower rod inside, where it dripped into the tub. "Call me when you get there," she said. "I'll be driving after. I know how phones work." Evidence remains mixed. Carol called 11 minutes later. "You accepted that teaching position," she said. "News travels," Leah told me. "News travels through Leah. Why didn't you tell anyone you were considering it?" "I did, several times." "That was a year ago. The course still involves furniture." "Don't be smart. I'm genuinely hoping it does." Carol lowered her voice, though there was nobody with me to overhear. "Nathan is devastated. He hit it well. He thinks you're abandoning him again. I'm going 2 counties away to teach adults how to repair chairs. You know distance isn't the point." "Apparently it never is." She let that pass. "Did you have to do it now?" "They need someone Monday. They always need someone." "You like being needed," so Leah informs me. Leah is right. I'm beginning to regret teaching either of you complete sentences. Carol sighed. "Ron thinks the program will be good for you." "I didn't ask Ron." "No, but you'll be pleased to know your replacement approves. Don't call him that." The words came out sharper than I intended. Carol went silent. I rubbed my forehead. "He didn't replace me. Nathan wrote that, not Ron." "I know." He looked embarrassed by the whole thing. "He is." He asked Nathan to change the acknowledgement. That surprised me. "When?" "Last night." "Did Nathan agree?" "No." I could hear the faint sound of running water at her end. Carol was probably wiping down a counter that was already clean. "He said the acknowledgement belongs to him," she continued. "Ron said his name belongs to him. Good for Ron. You could tell him that. You just did. You make gratitude sound like a subcontract." "Carol, I have to pack. For 3 months. 12 weeks. That's 3 months. I'm aware of how calendars work. Are you?" I almost laughed. "Drive carefully," she said. "Your tires are old. I replaced them in March. Then your driving is old." She hung up before I could answer. Nathan did not call. At 9 that night, Paige sent me a message. "I'm sorry about yesterday. I didn't read all of it before it was printed." I stared at the sentence, wondering which part deserved a response. I wrote, "You don't owe me an apology." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and returned. He wanted it to be a gift. I typed, "It was." That sounded cruel, so I erased it. I finally sent, "I believe you." The road out of town passed Nathan's subdivision. I could have taken the bypass, but habit carried me past the stone entrance and the row of identical mailboxes. His truck was in the driveway. A length of caution tape ran across the back walkway, visible through the gap between houses. He had taken the steps seriously enough to warn people away from them. I kept driving. The Tri-County program occupied a former furniture factory with tall windows and brick walls, stained dark beneath the gutters. Elaine waited near the loading entrance, wearing a yellow coat and holding 2 paper cups. She was shorter than I remembered and had silver hair cut so close it seemed designed for weather. "You came," she said. "I said I would. You've said several things over the years. I brought my own mug. I remember your coffee." She handed me a ring of keys and led me through the shop. 12 workstations stood in 2 rows. On each one sat a damaged object: chairs with loose joints, tables with split tops, a cabinet missing one door. The students bring their own projects later, Elaine said. These are for assessment. Whose assessment? Yours. I already know the furniture is damaged. The students, Daniel. That seems less polite. She smiled. Try not to scare them off before lunch. At 9, 12 adults entered carrying notebooks, toolboxes, coffee, and the specific caution of people who had chosen to become beginners in public. I stood in front of them with Leah's magnetic level on the bench behind me. A broad man in a mechanic's jacket raised his hand before I introduced myself. Are we fixing the chairs? He asked. Or are the chairs showing us what's wrong with us? A few people laughed. I looked at the cracked oak chair in front of him. If the chair starts talking, I said, we'll charge extra. The room relaxed. I picked up a loose spindle and held it where everyone could see. The first mistake people make in restoration is deciding what happened before they understand how the thing was put together. The sentence stopped me. 12 strangers waited. I set the spindle down carefully. So, I said, we're going to begin by asking better questions. The broad man in the mechanic's jacket looked at the chair in front of him. What kind of questions? Start with what you can see. It's broke. That's a conclusion. It's also why I'm here. His name tag said Malcolm Reeves. He had grease embedded around his fingernails and the cheerful confidence of a man who had spent years being competent somewhere else. I pointed to the loose spindle. What can you see? Gap at the top joint, scratches around the bottom. Somebody tried glue. What kind? He leaned closer. Yellow? A woman at the next station said, Exceptional work, Sherlock. Her name was Rosa Delgado. She wore red-framed glasses and had brought 3 pencils sharpened to identical lengths. Malcolm ignored her. There's a nail in it too. Why would somebody add a nail? I asked. Because the glue failed. Or, they didn't wait for it to dry, Rosa said. Or, the joint was loose for another reason. We spent 20 minutes on that chair before anyone touched a tool. Malcolm became visibly restless. Rosa filled 2 notebook pages. Across the aisle, a retired accountant named Judith Wu photographed her table from 6 angles and asked whether she should create a spreadsheet for surface defects. Only if you promise not to show it to me, I said. She smiled. I was told you were strict. You were misinformed. Elaine passed the open doorway carrying a cardboard box. He's worse. By lunch, the room smelled like old wood, coffee, and the citrus cleaner the program used on every surface, whether it needed it or not. I had divided the class into pairs and asked them to explain their object to each other without suggesting a repair. Malcolm lasted 4 minutes. Can I take this apart now? No, I already know what's wrong. What's Rosa's assessment? That the chair has trust issues. Rosa looked up. I said somebody kept forcing solutions onto a joint they hadn't cleaned. Same thing, Malcolm said. I took the chair, turned it upside down, and showed them where the seat rail had split beneath a metal bracket. The loose spindle was a symptom. Pulling it apart first would have widened the damage. Malcolm rubbed the back of his neck. So, I would have made it worse. Probably. You enjoy saying that? More than I should. He grinned. The 12 of them laughed easily when I made mistakes. That surprised me. At home, laughter during a mistake had always sounded like a door locking. Here, it meant they were still paying attention. After lunch, Judith measured a cabinet opening 3 times and got 3 different numbers. Your tape is bent, I told her. She examined the hook. I thought I was losing cognitive function. Not before Wednesday. I appreciate the extension. She switched tapes and got the same number twice. Her whole body relaxed. I spent 15 minutes showing her how the hook moved to account for inside and outside measurements. She asked me to demonstrate it again. I did. Then Rosa came over and asked the same question, and I explained it a 3rd time without irritation. Elaine watched from the doorway. What? I asked. Nothing. You're staring. I'm observing a patient man. Your hiring standards are low. They had to be. The furnished apartment occupied the 2nd floor of a narrow brick building behind the administration office. It had 1 bedroom, a square kitchen, and furniture chosen to offend nobody. The sofa was beige. The walls were beige. Even the framed photograph above the table appeared to be a beige field under cloudy weather. I set Leah's level on the kitchen counter. The counter was off by 1/8 of an inch across 4 feet. I did not fix it. The first night, I ate a turkey sandwich over the sink because there was no reason to dirty a plate. Then I remembered Carol accusing me of refusing ordinary pleasures and put the second half on a plate. It still tasted like a sandwich. I reached for my phone 3 times before calling Leah. The first time, I decided it was too late. The second, I remembered she stayed up later than I did. The third, she answered by saying, "What broke? Nothing." "Are you hurt?" "No." "Did you get lost?" "I'm in the apartment." A pause. "Then why are you calling?" "I don't know." Leah laughed. "This is historic. I can hang up." "No." "Wait. Describe the apartment." "It's beige." "What color?" "Beige." "Unseasoned oatmeal." "Furniture, temporary, bed, hostile, neighbors." "Someone upstairs walks like he's testing the floor for weakness." "You're on the top floor." I looked at the ceiling. Leah laughed harder. "Old building. Pigeons, maybe." "That's not reassuring." We talked for 12 minutes. She told me about a client who had used the phrase circle back 9 times in one meeting. I told her about Malcolm diagnosing a chair with trust issues and gave Rosa proper credit. Neither of us mentioned Nathan until I heard Leah open and close a drawer. "How bad was Sunday?" I asked. "We didn't have Sunday. You always have Sunday. You weren't there to cook. Several of you own stoves. Mom invited everyone to her house. Nathan came without Paige. Ron asked him again to change the acknowledgement. Mom said Ron was overreacting. I told her Ron gets to decide how his own name is used. Then Nathan accused me of putting ideas in Ron's head. "You've been busy." Ron left before dinner. "He walked out?" "He said he wanted a hamburger and went to a diner." That's Ron's version of burning a bridge. Mom cried in the kitchen. Nathan left. I ate half a bowl of pasta standing up. I looked at the clean plate in my sink. "You could have come here," I said. "To the teaching apartment 2 hours away? It was only an observation. You used to stop that." "What?" "Everything. I cooked. You intercepted. You'd make a joke, hand Mom something to carry, ask Nathan to help you outside. We all thought you were avoiding the conflict. I was. You were also keeping it from getting worse." I leaned against the counter. Maybe it needed to get worse. Convenient thing to say from Beige County. "You want me to come back?" "No." She said it quickly. Then, more softly, "I want us to learn how to have dinner without using you as a shock absorber. That sounds uncomfortable." It was terrible. We stayed on the phone until the pacing overhead stopped. Before hanging up, Leah said, "Thank you for calling for no reason." I had a reason. "What?" "The counter's crooked. Good night, Dad." Nathan waited until Thursday. I was cleaning brushes after class when his name appeared on my phone. I considered letting it ring. Then I remembered Leah telling me that no was not the same thing as hurt. I answered. "Did you tell Ron to confront me?" Nathan asked. "Hello to you too." "Did you?" "No, he wants his name removed." "Then remove it." "You don't think that looks strange?" "To whom?" "My editor, the publisher, anyone who knows us. You wrote that he showed you what a father looks like. He says he didn't. He didn't say that. He said he doesn't want the sentence used against you. Those are different?" "Yes." A faucet ran on his end, then stopped. Nathan was in his kitchen. I pictured the back door beyond him and the caution tape across the steps. "Leah wants changes too," he said. "I know about her sentence. She wants the funeral chapter cut." "What happened at the funeral? You read it. I read your version." He made a frustrated sound. "This is what you did. You put everyone on alert, so now they're examining every sentence like it might explode. You printed their lives. It's a family memoir." "No, it's your memoir. That's what you said when they asked for changes. You wrote their names in the margins." "So, you'd ask them? You couldn't just tell me what you thought was wrong?" "I did." "No, you turned it into an investigation. I gave you 10 conversations, 10 opportunities for people to contradict me. If you're certain, why does that bother you?" He didn't answer. A cabinet door closed sharply at his end. I dried my hands on a rag. "How are the steps?" "Seriously?" "I'm asking." I called someone. "Good." He says the stringers are fine. 2 treads need replacing. That sounds right. He can't do it for 3 weeks. I gave you another name. He's booked too. I'll text you a third. I'm not asking for a referral. "What are you asking for?" Silence moved through the line. When Nathan spoke again, some of the force had gone out of his voice. "Were you really at the hospital?" "Yes." "The whole night?" "From around 12:40 until 5? Why didn't anyone tell me?" "I don't know." "You didn't leave a note?" "No. You could have woken me. You just had surgery. You could have stayed. I had to return a company truck." You always had a reason. That one was real. They were all real to you. I closed my eyes. There it was again. The distance between an explanation and an excuse, narrow enough to step across and wide enough to live inside for years. I should have left a note, I said. You wrote that. I'm saying it. Nathan breathed against the phone. Do you remember the nurse's name? No. Was Mom there when you came? No. So, there's nobody who can confirm it. I opened my eyes. You asked me a question, I said. I answered. I'm trying to understand. No. You're trying to decide whether my answer can be used. That isn't fair. Probably not. He waited for me to soften it. I didn't. I have to go, he said. Nathan? What? I didn't tell you no about the steps because they were in the book. You said you did. I said I wasn't available. I was angry, and I wanted you to feel what unavailable felt like. He went quiet. That sounds like punishment, he said. It was. The word felt worse aloud and better for the same reason. So, what now? Now I'm 2 counties away, and your steps still need treads. That's your apology? No, I'm sorry I used something you needed to make a point. He let out a slow breath. Are you coming back to fix them? No. I heard a short laugh, almost unwilling. At least you're consistent. I'm working on accuracy first. After we hung up, I texted him the 3rd carpenter's number. He responded with a thumbs up, which in our family could mean thank you, go to hell, or conversation complete. The next afternoon, Malcolm brought in a walnut side table with one leg broken cleanly at the apron. My brother did this, he said. Dropped it, threw it. At you, at a wall near me. The room went quiet. Malcolm ran his thumb along the broken joint. We haven't spoken in 4 years. He wants the table back now. Why? He says it was our mother's and I took it. Did you? Depends which brother you ask. He looked at me. So, what's the first question? I studied the split wood, the old glue, the dent where it had struck the wall. What do you want repaired? I asked. The table or the story? Malcolm considered that. Can it be both? Maybe, I said. But they won't take the same tools. Malcolm looked down at the table. The story, he said. The table's just the only part that'll hold still. Rosa stopped arranging clamps and glanced at me. She had begun doing that whenever someone said something she suspected might become a lesson. I disappointed her. Take the hardware off, I told Malcolm. Bag it and label where it came from. That's it? That's enough until we clean the joint. What about my brother? Don't put him in the bag. Rosa snorted. For the next several days, Malcolm worked on the walnut table without mentioning his brother. The old repair had to be softened and scraped away. The split apron needed to be opened just enough to accept glue without widening the damage. He wanted to add 2 screws. I told him one properly fitted dowel would do less harm. More metal means stronger, he said. More metal means more metal. You rehearse these answers? I've had practice with people who think volume is structure. He studied me. You and your son talking yet? I had not told him about Nathan. What makes you think I have a son? You give advice like somebody who's had it rejected professionally. Rosa pointed a pencil at him. He could have daughters. I have both. See, she said. Broader rejection base. I should have kept the conversation on furniture. Instead, I heard myself say, my son wrote a book about me. Malcolm's eyebrows rose. You famous? No. Then why? Good question. Rosa leaned against her bench. What kind of book? The kind where the author survives his father. The room quieted around our corner, not because everyone had stopped working, but because people are excellent at listening without turning their heads. Did he? Malcolm asked. Apparently. You read it? Yes. And? He got some things right. Rosa waited. He got some things wrong, I added. Did you tell him? In red pencil, Malcolm nodded. That'll bring a family together. Thank you, Malcolm. I threw a wrench through a radio during Thanksgiving. I know about communication. We went back to the table. By the end of the 2nd week, the class had lost its fear of me. Judith began correcting my arithmetic aloud. Rosa brought pastries on Wednesdays and denied making them, though the flower on her sleeve weakened her case. Malcolm started arriving early to drink my coffee, which suggested either friendship or self-harm. The apartment remained beige, but it accumulated signs of occupation. A dish towel Leah mailed me because she said the furnished one looked contagious. 3 grocery receipts held to the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a lobster, a stack of student notes on the table. I left the counter crooked. On Friday afternoon, Elaine came into the shop while I was helping Judith repair a drawer runner. "You have a visitor," she said. "If it's a salesman, tell him I already believe in windows." He brought a pie. "Send him in." Ron appeared in the doorway holding a bakery box against his chest. He wore khakis and a navy polo shirt with a little stitch sailboat over the pocket. Ron dressed like every day might involve an unexpected brunch. Judith looked from him to me. "Relative?" "Complicated," I said. Ron lifted the box. "Apple." "Family," Judith decided. I finished showing her how to plane the runner without taking too much from one side. Ron wandered the shop, inspecting projects with his hands safely behind his back. At Malcolm's station, he bent over the walnut table. "That's beautiful," he said. "It was thrown at a wall," Malcolm told him. Ron straightened. "Still beautiful." Malcolm looked at me. "I like him better. Most people do." When class ended, Elaine cut the pie with a utility knife because nobody could find anything meant for food. We ate standing around the main bench. Ron complimented the crust. Elaine admitted it came from a grocery store. Malcolm asked whether honesty improved the flavor. Rosa said no, but it lowered expectations. Ron fit in immediately. He remembered everyone's name after hearing it once. By the time the room cleared, Judith had invited him to a community theater production, and Malcolm had offered to look at the strange noise in his car. "You drove 2 hours to bring strangers pie?" I asked. "I didn't know they'd be here. You came during class." "I thought class ended at 3. "It does." He looked at the clock. Traffic. The clock said 4:15. I locked the tool cabinets. Ron collected the empty paper plates and put them in the trash. "How's Carol?" I asked. Mad at me. That wasn't my question. "She's fine." "Then you've been married long enough to understand the difference." He smiled without conviction. We took our coffee outside to a bench near the old loading dock. The factory windows reflected a row of maple trees along the road. Ron sat with both hands around his paper cup. "I didn't come to talk about Carol." "Good. I came to talk about Carol and Nathan. That's different." "A little." He watched a delivery truck turn into the far parking lot. "I asked Nathan to remove me from the acknowledgement," he said. "I heard. He thinks you put me up to it. I told him I didn't." "I know. He told me." That was unexpected. Nathan had apparently quoted me accurately at least once. Ron rubbed his thumb over the cup seam. "I'm not ashamed that he thinks of me as a father." "You shouldn't be." "I love him." "I know. I've been in his life a long time. I showed up. I helped when he asked. I tried not to interfere when he didn't." "You're describing a father." Ron looked at me. "You don't have to make this easy." "I'm not." "No, you are. That's what you do when you don't want someone to know they hurt you." The Mercers had apparently begun licensing my children's observations. I drank my coffee. It had cooled into something medicinal. "What do you want me to say, Ron? I want you to know I didn't tell him you weren't his father. The sentence doesn't say that. It says enough. You didn't write it. I let him believe it." I set down the cup. Ron stared across the parking lot. "At the graduation, I saw you." For a second, I thought he meant some other graduation. "You were standing near the back," he continued. "Gray suit. By a pillar. The suit made me look like a funeral director." It did. I looked at him. "Why didn't you say anything? I thought Nathan knew. He wrote that I wasn't there." "I know. You read that chapter? Carol showed it to me after the birthday. And I told her it was wrong." "What did she say?" "That you left before the photographs, so as far as Nathan remembered, you might as well not have come." The same argument again. Physical presence offered as a technical defense. I understood why it angered them. I also understood why being erased angered me. "Did you tell Nathan you saw me?" "Yesterday." I waited. He didn't believe me at first. That must have been awkward. He asked why I never mentioned it. I didn't have a good answer. "Try one without the word physical." Ron gave me a look. "Sorry," I said. "Family joke." He wanted to know if Carol knew you were there. I said yes. She spoke to me in the parking lot. "I didn't know that part." "What did she tell you?" "That you'd come anyway, and she hoped you wouldn't make things tense. She told me Nathan didn't want me there." Ron lowered his head. The trees across the lot moved in a small wind. Dry leaves scraped along the pavement. "I liked being the one he thanked," Ron said. "There was no pride in it." "When?" "All the time. For fixing things I barely touched. For showing up at dinners. For knowing what was going on in his life. You did those things, sometimes because you weren't there, sometimes because nobody told you. After a while, I stopped asking which was which. I thought of Ron standing beside Carol in photographs, his arm around Nathan, never looking as if he had taken anything. Maybe that was because he had been given it in pieces. You aren't responsible for my mistakes, I said. No, I'm responsible for enjoying the version where they made me important. It was the most honest thing Ron had ever said to me, possibly the most honest thing any of us had said in years. Why tell me? I asked. Because Carol says this whole mess is your fault for making notes. That sounds like Carol. And because I've slept in the guest room for 4 nights. That also sounds like Carol. She thinks I'm turning against her. Are you? No. But I'm done agreeing with something because disagreeing would be inconvenient. I looked at him. Careful, I said. That's how people end up teaching furniture repair 2 counties from home. He laughed. We sat until the light shifted off the factory windows. Ron told me Carol had helped Nathan shape several chapters. Not written them exactly, but supplied scenes and corrected sequences. She believed Daniel leaving was the event everything else grew from. Nathan believed her because her version contained gestures, dialogue, weather. Mine contained a truck idling in the dark where nobody could see it. Will you talk to her? Ron asked. About what? The graduation? The book? Any of it. She knows my number. She thinks you'll use the truth to punish her. Will I? Ron considered me. I don't know. I respected that answer. Before leaving, he took the pie box from the trash because Carol recycled cardboard. At his car, he stopped with one hand on the door. Nathan asked whether you ever wanted to come home. What did you say? That he should ask you. More people should try that. He might. Ron drove away. My phone buzzed before I reached the apartment. Nathan had sent one sentence. Did Ron really see you at graduation? I called instead of typing. He declined the call. I tried once more. He declined again. Then another message appeared. Just answer. I stood beneath the exterior light, listening to insects strike the glass above me. Yes, I wrote. He did. 3 dots moved at the bottom of the screen. Mom says you came to prove a point and left because nobody begged you to stay. I read that twice. Then I typed, Your mother can tell you why I left. I can tell you why I didn't stay. The dots returned. What's the difference? I called him a 3rd time. This time, he answered. What? Nathan said. No hello. No accusation either. He sounded tired. I came because I wanted to see you graduate, I said. Then why did you stand in the back? Your mother told me you didn't want tension. I didn't even know you were there. I know that now. You knew it then. If I didn't know you were there, you knew I couldn't have asked you to leave. I leaned against the brick wall outside the apartment. She said you wanted one day without us making things difficult. So, you hid behind a pillar? There weren't many options by the time I got inside. You could have sat down. Beside your mother and Ron? Somewhere I could see you. Yes. The word came out without defense. Nathan went quiet. I should have sat where you could see me, I said. Why didn't you stay for pictures? Your mother asked me not to. She says she didn't. She told me to give you the day. That isn't the same thing. It sounded the same at the time. Everything sounds like permission to leave when you want to go. I watched a moth batter itself against the exterior light. That may be true, I said. Nathan breathed out, close to the phone. Why aren't you fighting me? I thought that's what you were angry about. I'm angry because every answer changes something else. That happens when you ask people. Did Mom ask you to leave the house? Yes. Those exact words? She told me to pack a bag. Why? Because we had been failing each other for years. That's not an answer. It's the one I have. Did you cheat on her? No. Did she cheat on you? Not that I know of. Was there some big secret? No. Then why would she throw you out? I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because Nathan still believed marriages ended like glass breaking. One impact, one guilty hand. Your mother was lonely, I said. So was I. She kept asking me to meet her somewhere I didn't know how to go. I kept fixing things around the house so I could say I was trying. She says you didn't care. I cared. I also made caring hard to recognize. What did you do that night? Packed, and after, sat in the truck for 53 minutes. You saw that. You wrote it 3 times. I wanted it exact. Why? Because if I rounded it to an hour, You'd think I was trying to make it sound noble. Were you? No. Did you want to come back inside? Yes. Then why didn't you? The answer was still humiliating. I wanted somebody to come get me. Nathan did not speak. You wanted us to prove it, he said. I wanted to know I'd be welcome. You were our father. I know. We shouldn't have had to invite you. I know. Mom was upstairs waiting for you to come back. You were outside waiting for her to come down. What were Leah and I supposed to do? Nothing. But we did something. We watched. His voice broke on the last word, then hardened around it. I was waiting at the window. I didn't know. You never looked up. I thought I did. You didn't see me. No. Another truth that did not improve anything. Nathan said, Mom told us you chose work over the family. Work was easier. That isn't the same as choosing it. Sometimes easier becomes a choice before you notice. Why didn't you correct her? I thought speaking against your mother would make you choose between us. So, you let us choose against you. I didn't think of it that way. That sentence could be the title of your life. I laughed once. He did not. I talked to Leah again, he said. And Ron, I'm meeting Mom tomorrow. Good. No, it isn't good. Ron says you were at the hospital too. I wrote that. He says you called him from the parking garage because the gate wouldn't accept your card. I remembered that. Ron had told me to press the help button. A security guard raised the gate without asking for payment. He remembers the time, Nathan continued. 12:38. Ron remembers times. He saves every phone call. That sounds unhealthy. He had the bill. Of course he did. Ron kept tax returns from years when his only income had been mowing lawns. You don't sound surprised, Nathan said. I remember calling him. Then why didn't you tell me before? When? Any time in the last 11 years. You never said you thought I wasn't there. You never asked what I thought. We had reached one of those places where both men could keep trading accurate injuries until accuracy itself became cruel. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For leaving without a note. For not asking what you believed. For letting you think the empty chair was the whole night. He took a breath. That doesn't fix it, I know. Stop saying that. I'll work on alternatives. A faint sound escaped him. Not quite laughter, but close enough that I felt it. Then he said, My revisions are due in 2 weeks. There was fear beneath the sentence. What happens if you miss them? They delay production. Maybe. Or they say no to major changes. Are you making major changes? I don't know. That's honest. Don't congratulate me. I wasn't. Yes, you were. Quietly. Somehow that's worse. I looked through the apartment window at the crooked counter. What do you need from me? I need everybody in the same room. That has not gone well recently. I can't keep calling one person and finding out the last person left something out. What room? Leah offered her place Sunday. I'm teaching Monday. It's 2 hours, not another country. You told Mom. I'll come. He hesitated. Paige isn't coming, he said. She says this is ours. She's wise. She's furious with me. She's still wise. When he hung up, I stayed beneath the light until the moth stopped moving. Leah's dining room could hold 6 people if nobody needed to leave quickly. She had pushed the table against one wall and arranged chairs in a rough circle instead. It looked like a support group for people who had recently survived brunch. There was food on the kitchen counter. Nobody touched it. Nathan sat with the manuscript on his knees. Colored tabs stuck out along the edges. Leah chose the chair nearest the doorway. Ron sat beside Carol, though several inches of cushion remained between them. I took the last chair. Nathan looked around the circle. I don't want anyone making speeches. Carol folded her hands. Nobody planned a speech. You brought notes. They're questions I thought you might ask. That's a prepared speech with better manners. Nathan, Ron said, no. This is why we're here. I need direct answers. Leah reached for a cracker, studied it, and put it back. Nathan opened the manuscript to the first chapter. Mom, did you tell Dad to pack a bag? Carol's eyes went to me. Don't look at him, Nathan said. I can look wherever I want. Did you? She straightened a fold in her slacks. Yes. The room seemed to pull inward. Nathan looked down at the page. Did you beg him to stay? No. Did you go outside? No. Did you tell Leah and me that he left because he wanted a different life? I told you what I understood at the time. That isn't direct. Carol's face colored. I told you he chose to leave. Why? Because he did. You just said you told him to go, and he went. Nathan closed the manuscript around one finger. Did you tell him I didn't want him at graduation? I told him you didn't want conflict. I didn't know he was there. I knew how tense you were that morning, because you kept telling me he might show up and ruin the pictures. Ron turned toward her. You didn't tell me that. Carol's voice sharpened. You weren't the one trying to manage everyone. You let me think he decided to leave. He did decide. So did you, Nathan said. Carol looked at him as if he had reached across the room and struck her. Yes, she said. I did. No one moved. She unfolded the paper in her hand and folded it again. I was tired, she said. I had spent years asking your father to talk to me. He would nod, disappear into the garage, and come back with something repaired. I stopped feeling like a wife. I felt like another problem he was maintaining. That doesn't explain why you lied, Nathan said. I didn't think of it as a lie. What did you think it was? The version I could live with. The sentence passed through the room slowly. Carol looked at me. If I told you both I asked him to leave, then I was the one who broke the family. If I told you he sat outside waiting for me, then I had to explain why I watched him and didn't go down. I was angry. He got to be calm, and I got to be the woman throwing him out. So I told it the way it felt. An emotional truth, I said. Her eyes flashed. Don't. Nathan stood and walked to the kitchen. He opened a cabinet, found glasses, closed it without taking one. You helped me write this, he said. I told you what I remembered. You corrected the blue robe. I said I owned one like it. Ron gave it to you years later. It was an image. It was a scene where you begged him to stay. I never said I begged. You read the chapter, not that version. Nathan laughed, but there was no humor in it. Leah said, sit down. I don't want to sit. Then lean. You're making the room nervous. He leaned against the counter. His eyes found me. If she'd come outside, would you have gone back in? Everyone waited. Carol's hands became still. I could have said yes. It would have given Nathan one clean loss. A family saved except for a woman's refusal to cross the yard. I don't know, I said. Carol looked away. I wanted her to come, I continued. But wanting to be asked back wasn't the same as wanting to repair the marriage. I might have stayed another month, another year. I don't know if I would have become different. Nathan stared at me. So there isn't a true version where one of you saves it? No? What am I supposed to do with that? Live with it, Leah said, like the rest of us. He picked up the manuscript and held it against his side. You both decided what we could handle, he said. Mom gave us a villain. Dad let her because silence made him feel decent. Then both of you called it protecting us. Neither Carol nor I answered. Nathan walked to the door. What about the book? Ron asked. Nathan stopped with his hand on the knob. I don't know what the book is anymore, he said. Then he left us in Leah's dining room with 5 untouched plates and no simple father left to blame. Leah locked the door behind him. He has a key, Carol said. I know. Then why lock it? Because I need 30 seconds where nobody can leave dramatically. Ron looked toward the kitchen. I can leave normally. Sit down, Ron. He sat. Leah carried the plates from the counter and placed one in front of each of us. Pasta with roasted vegetables, garlic bread, salad. The sort of meal that had required planning before we arrived to ruin it. I'm not hungry, Carol said. Neither is anyone else. Eat. Leah, you all taught me that food solves emotional problems. Don't change the family rules halfway through dinner. I picked up my fork. Ron followed. Carol waited until Leah sat, then took one bite of pasta and chewed it with visible resentment. Nobody spoke for several minutes. The table was so close to the wall that my chair touched the baseboard. Nathan's empty seat faced me. He had left his water untouched and taken the manuscript. Carol broke the silence. You enjoyed that. Leah closed her eyes. Mom. I looked at Carol. Which part? Making me admit everything in front of him. I didn't ask the questions. You gave him the corrections. I gave him mine. You wrote my name in the margins. You were there. So were you. I wrote true beside my parts. She dropped her fork. It struck the plate with a sharp little sound. Do you want praise for admitting 6 things? No. Then stop saying it like you've discovered accountability. Ron leaned forward. Carol. No. He sat there calm while Nathan tore into me. He waited until I used the same phrase he wrote on that page, then repeated it like he'd caught me. I shouldn't have done that, I said. Her anger faltered. The emotional truth remark, I continued. It was cheap. Carol looked almost disappointed. She had prepared for resistance, not agreement. It was, she said. I'm sorry. Leah stared at me over her glass. What? I asked. Nothing. I just wanted to witness it in case the building collapsed. Carol picked up her fork again, but did not eat. I should have told them I asked you to leave, she said. Yes. You should have told them you wanted to. I did. No. You told Nathan you might not have come back inside. That isn't the same as admitting you were relieved when I gave you a reason to go. The room became still. Ron studied his plate. Leah looked between us. Were you? She asked. I set down my fork. The relief had arrived beneath the pain that night, quiet and shameful. I had driven to a motel and sat on the bed, listening to the heater click on and off. Nobody needed an answer from me. Nobody was waiting in another room for me to become somebody I had failed to become for years. Yes, I said. Part of me was relieved. Carol nodded once. That's what I saw from the window. You couldn't see that. I'd been looking at you for 23 years, Leah said. Why didn't either of you tell us any of this? Because you were already angry, Carol replied. Because your father wouldn't defend himself. Because every explanation sounded like blame. And because we didn't want you to know the marriage ended without a catastrophe, I said. It ended from repetition. Ron tore his garlic bread in half. That's harder to forgive, he said. We all looked at him. He shrugged. A catastrophe has a date. Carol's face softened. It was the first time she had looked at him all evening. Leah pushed the salad bowl toward her. Eat, she said. Carol did. After dinner, Ron washed dishes. He refused my help, telling me I dried plates like a man serving a sentence. Leah packed leftovers into 4 containers, including one for Nathan. Carol wiped the table. For several minutes, we moved around one another without assigning meaning to it. At the door, Carol handed me my container. Are you going back tonight? Yes, it's late. It's 7:30. Dark then. The truck has lights. She pressed the container into my hands. You always make concern difficult, she said. You hide it inside criticism. It has to survive the trip. Ron came up behind her wearing his coat. The space between them had narrowed. He put one hand lightly at her back, and she did not move away. Leah walked me to the driveway. You okay? She asked. That question needs better instructions. Are you glad you came? No. Good. You? No. We stood beside my truck. The porch light caught a streak of flour on her black sweater. She must have made the garlic bread herself. Nathan was right, I said. We decided what you could handle. He was right about you making yourself unavailable, too. I know. I'm not saying that to hurt you. I know that, too. She opened the driver's door for me, as if worried I might avoid it. You're very agreeable tonight, she said. I'm exhausted. Call when you get back. For no reason? For the reason that I asked. The adult trades shop felt cleaner than usual. Monday morning, empty rooms often do after family gatherings. Every tool stayed where it belonged. Every damaged object waited without revising its account. Malcolm had clamped the walnut apron over the weekend. The new dowel held. The leg sat square. He ran a hand over the dent where the table had hit the wall. You going to steam that out? I asked. I was thinking of leaving it. Why? My brother remembers throwing it. I remember catching it after. Did you call him? Malcolm adjusted the clamp, though it no longer needed adjusting. Yeah. And? He says I can keep the table. That what you wanted? No. What did you want? For him to say he was sorry, did he? He said he shouldn't have thrown it. That's close. It isn't. I looked at him. Malcolm grinned without humor. You're rubbing off on us. He left the dent. Later, Judith cut a drawer runner too narrow after I had told her twice to check the measurement. My first response came out sharper than it should have. What did you measure from? Her face closed. The cabinet opening, she said. Then how did you lose an eighth? I don't know. You wrote it down. I know. I heard myself then, not the words exactly, but the satisfaction of being the one who had warned her. I took the runner from her. That came out wrong, I said. Judith crossed her arms. I'm frustrated because we can't add the wood back, I continued. I made it sound like the mistake told me something about you. It doesn't. She looked at the undersized runner. So what now? We make another one. You aren't going to tell me I should have measured twice. You already know. 3 times, she said. I measured 3 times. Then we checked the tape. The metal hook had loosened. Not enough to notice until the errors added up. Judith held it toward me. I'm not losing cognitive function? Not before Friday. She laughed, and the room opened again. Elaine found me at lunch sitting on the loading dock. You're different here, she said. Compared to where? Everywhere I've met you before. You've met me at hardware stores, and once at a funeral. Both places encourage brevity. You explain things to these people. That's the job. You let them misunderstand you and try again. That's also the job. Elaine sat beside me. You could do that at home. Do you offer family courses? Only advanced placement. My phone rang before I could answer. Nathan asked, Are you busy? Yes. Can you talk? I looked at Elaine. She stood, brushing dust from her coat. 10 minutes, I said. Nathan took 15. His editor had read the proposed changes. Removing Leah's line was simple. The funeral chapter could be shortened. The acknowledgement could be rewritten. The larger problem was the spine of the book, which was how Nathan described it. If I change the graduation and hospital chapters, it affects everything after, he said. Because I was there. Because I believed you weren't. Those can both be in the book. That makes it messy. It was messy. Readers need clarity, do they? You haven't written a book. No, I've only lived in one. He was silent. Then he said, They want family material for publicity. What kind? Photographs, a few comments, nothing complicated. Everything described as nothing complicated eventually required a ladder. What comments? A short statement from you. No, you don't even know what it says. If somebody else wrote it, it isn't my statement. You could change it. What do you want me to say? He read from something. Even when we remember the past differently, I'm proud of Nathan for telling his story, and grateful that writing it has helped our family heal. I waited. Well, he asked. We haven't healed. It doesn't say completely. It says helped, hasn't it? Your mother and Ron slept in separate rooms. They're fine now. Leah locked you out of her house for 30 seconds. You timed it, she told me. That may qualify as healing in this family, but I'm not putting my name under it. Nathan lowered his voice. They think having you involved could be powerful. Who's they? The publicity team. Tell them I'm not powerful. They know the central relationship is unresolved. That's the point. We don't have to pretend everything's perfect. Just healed. It signals that you support me. I support you. Then say it. I support you. I won't support every sentence in the book. They're not asking you to. They're asking me to stand beside the package. His breath came hard through the phone. You said you wouldn't go after it publicly. I won't. Refusing to participate is a statement. So, was the last page. That sentence is changing. Good. Then what else do you want? I want you to write the book you can stand behind without arranging the people in your life to prove it. You think I can rewrite 3 years of work in 2 weeks? I think you can decide what you're willing to call true. If I pull it now, I may lose the deal. I closed my eyes. There it was, not a threat, but a cost. Real enough to hurt. Nathan had worked for years to reach this point. The book was not merely a weapon. It was also the best thing he believed he had made. I'm sorry, I said. No, you're not. I am. I know what this means to you. You don't know anything about my work. That's fair. You never asked. That's fair too. Stop agreeing with me like that. I don't know what answer you want. I want my father to say he's proud of me. The loading dock, the shop behind me, the traffic on the road, all of it seemed to recede. I am proud of you, I said. Nathan did not speak. I'm proud that you made something difficult, I continued. I'm proud that you can write. I'm proud that when people read your work, they feel seen. But I won't say this book healed us when it asked some of us to disappear so your story would be clear. His voice turned cold. So, that's your final answer. It's my current one. What would change it? The truth. Whose? Start with yours. He hung up. That Friday, Elaine handed me an envelope someone had left in the administration office. Inside was a key to my workshop at home. Nathan had taped it to a note. I'll be there Saturday. I want to go through it with you. No Mom, no Leah, no Ron, just us. Below that, in smaller writing, he had added, I don't know if I want a father or a witness. I know I don't want another statement. I turned the key over in my hand. Nathan had carried a copy of it for 15 years. He used it when I was out of town, when he needed to borrow a tool, or when something in his own life had gone wrong and he wanted a place where nobody would ask why he was quiet. Returning it was not practical. It was a sentence. I drove home with the key in my shirt pocket. Nathan's truck was parked beside my garage when I arrived. He sat on the patio with the manuscript at his feet and a travel mug between both hands. The caution in his posture made him look like a man waiting outside a doctor's office. "You're early," I said. "You're late. It's my house." That doesn't change the clock. I unlocked the workshop. The air inside had gone stale. A fine layer of dust covered the bench where the manuscript had first opened. The blue string was gone, taken with the pages, but one red pencil shaving remained curled beside the vise. Nathan stepped in behind me. He had brought the manuscript in a canvas grocery bag. Loose pages stuck out of the top. Colored tabs crowded the edges. It no longer looked like a finished book. It looked like something that had survived weather. "I made changes," he said. "I see that." I took out Leah's line. "Good. I rewrote the funeral chapter." "Did she read it?" "Yes." "And?" "She said it was less wrong. High praise. She's still angry." "That's allowed." He put the bag on the workbench and began removing pages. Some had typed revisions clipped over the originals. Others carried handwriting in several colors. My red pencil appeared less aggressive now that it had company. Nathan spread 3 versions of the acknowledgement in front of me. In one, Ron's name was gone. In another, he was thanked for being present without being called a father. In the third, there was no acknowledgement of any of us. "Which one do you want?" Nathan asked. "None of them belong to me. That's not helpful. It's accurate. You always hide behind that word." I hid behind silence before. I'm trying variety. Nathan pulled out the chair near the drill press and sat. It was the same chair Leah had occupied the morning after my birthday. "I talked to Mom for 5 hours, he said. "That sounds medically unwise. She says she never meant for me to believe you didn't care. What did she mean? She wanted me to understand that caring wasn't enough." I leaned against the bench. Nathan looked down at the pages. "She also admitted that when I wrote the first essay about you, she liked it. I knew the essay. It was the one that brought Nathan his first wide attention online. He had described a father who responded to every emotional crisis with a toolbox. Friends sent it to me with laughing faces, assuming I would recognize the affection beneath the complaint. I had, at least I thought I had. "What did she like about it?" I asked. "She said somebody finally understood what being married to you felt like." "That's fair." She kept sending me stories after that. Things you did, things you didn't do. "Did you ask me about any of them?" "No." "Why?" "Because the essay worked. The honesty of it kept me still." Nathan rubbed one hand over his face. "People read it," he continued. "They wrote to me about their fathers. Thousands of people. They said I put words to something they'd felt their whole lives. That must have meant a lot. It did. And the cleaner I was on the page, the more people responded. If I wrote that you drove 3 hours to fix my furnace but left before dinner, they focused on the drive. If I wrote that you left before dinner, they understood the loneliness. So you removed the drive. I thought it distracted from the point. It distracted from the kind of father you needed me to be." He looked up sharply. I did not soften it. Nathan stood and walked to the vent. He tapped the metal cover with one finger. It rattled. "You still haven't fixed this." "The wind has been uncooperative." He gave a short laugh. Then his shoulders dropped. I wasn't sitting at a desk thinking, "How do I lie about my father?" I know. I remembered the empty chair. I remembered Mom crying after you left. I remembered calling Ron when things went wrong because he stayed on the phone and you started listing solutions. All true. But I also remembered the furnace and the hospital parking garage after Ron told me, and graduation once I knew where to look. "You can remember something you didn't see?" "I remember the pillar." I said nothing. Nathan looked toward the dusty windows. "I remember scanning the room before they called my row. There was a man standing back there. I couldn't see his face. I thought he was staff. I felt something move in my chest and did not trust it enough to name it. You might be rebuilding that now," I said. "I might. Memory does that. That's the problem. No. The problem is calling memory complete because it hurts." He turned toward me. "You think your version hurts less?" "No. You gotta drive away." I also had to be the man driving. "Oh, come on," you asked. "No, you're making yourself tragic again. I'm telling you there was no clean side of the windshield." He took 2 steps toward the bench. "You want credit because leaving hurt you?" "No." "Because you waited 53 minutes?" "No." Because you fixed enough things afterward to keep a list? The question had been waiting for me since Leah packed my suitcase. Yes, I said. Nathan stopped. I did want credit, I continued. I thought if I kept showing up with tools, nobody could call me absent. I thought labor was evidence. Sometimes I offered help because you needed it. Sometimes I offered because being useful let me feel like a good father without asking whether I was one. He watched me carefully. I resented you for calling only when things broke, I said. But I trained you to do it. If you called because you were lonely, I didn't know what to say. If you called because the water heater failed, I could be in the truck in 5 minutes. You didn't have to come every time. I know. You made it seem like we were taking advantage of you. Sometimes you were. His jaw tightened. And sometimes, I added, I needed you to need me. Neither of us spoke. A truck passed on the road, shaking the loose vent. Nathan returned to the chair. He sat with his elbows on his knees. Paige asked if I'd rather be right about you or have you, he said. What did you tell her? That it was manipulative. Was it? Yes, probably. She threw a pillow at me. That improves the argument. It was a decorative pillow, no weight, cowardly. He smiled despite himself. The smile disappeared when he saw the manuscript. My editor says the book can hold ambiguity, he said. She says it might even be stronger. What do you think? I think she didn't buy an ambiguous book. What did she buy? A story about breaking a family pattern. Have you? Nathan looked at me. That isn't sarcasm, I said. I don't know. Then maybe that belongs in it? You make it sound simple. No, I make chairs sound simple. Books appear worse. He picked up the chapter about the hospital. I rewrote this one 3 times. In one version, I say you came but left before I woke. In another, I say I learned years later that you were there. In the third, I cut the hospital entirely. Which is true? The second? Then why are there 3? Because in the second, I look like an idiot for never asking. You look like someone who believed his family. That doesn't make it better. It makes it ours. He stared at the page. What if the honest version is just everybody failing in less interesting ways? That's what usually happens. People don't buy that. Maybe not. If I pulled the manuscript, the publisher could walk away. I know. You keep saying that, but you don't. This is 3 years of my life. More than that. Every job I took so I could keep writing. Every morning, Paige went to work while I sat in our spare room, believing this might become something. I don't know what that cost you. No, but I know what it costs to build the wrong thing carefully. He flinched. I wished I could take the sentence back without making it less true. I'm sorry, I said. You always apologize after the cut. I'm new at this. Nathan stood so fast the chair legs scraped. You think I wanted you to be cruel? I think you needed me to stay predictable. Because you were, so were you. What does that mean? It means you came here wanting one of 2 things. A father who signs the statement, or a witness who confirms the wound. I can't do either. His face reddened. You don't get to decide what I came for. Then tell me. I came because I don't know what to believe. Good. Stop saying good. It means you're asking. It means I can't trust my own memories. No. It means memories aren't verdicts. He picked up the pages, dropped them, then shoved both hands against the edge of the bench. I built my whole life around not becoming you. The words hung between us. And now, I asked, now I find out half the things I hated were more complicated, and the other half were true. That sounds about right. What am I supposed to do with that? You asked me that at Leah's. You didn't answer. I don't have one. You always have an answer. I have tools. That's different. Nathan's eyes shone. He looked away before anything could fall. I made you simpler, he said. Yes. Because anger sold? Partly. Because Mom needed me to? Partly. Because if you love me, then I have to admit I did this to someone who loved me. There it was. I felt the urge to rescue him from it. Say I understood. Say the book had not hurt that much. Say parents were built to absorb what their children needed to throw. He was 39. I was done making decisions for him and calling it mercy. Yes, I said. Nathan nodded as if I had confirmed a diagnosis. Then he began to cry. Not dramatically. His face folded and he covered it with one hand. I remained where I was because crossing the room without being invited had once felt impossible, and I needed to know whether it still was. I crossed it. When I put my hand on his shoulder, he did not lean into me. He did not pull away either. "I don't know how to write it if you're not the villain," he said. "Write that." He laughed through his hand. "That's your advice?" "It's what happened." We stood beside the bench until he wiped his face on his sleeve. I made coffee. Nathan took one drink and stared into the mug. "This is terrible. It's consistent." He carried it back to the manuscript. "What happens if I pull it?" he asked. "I don't know. Would you come home?" "I am home. You know what I mean." "No, I won't trade you a decision for access to me." He nodded slowly. "That's annoyingly healthy. I've been around beginners." Nathan gathered the loose pages into the canvas bag. The workshop key remained on the bench. At the door, I held it out to him. He looked at my palm. "I returned that. I noticed. I thought you didn't want me coming in. I didn't want you using me as a carpenter while writing me as a disappearance. So, what is it now?" "A key." He took it. "I need to talk to Paige," he said. "Yes." "And my editor." "Yes." "You're not going to tell me what to do?" "No. That may be the least fatherly thing you've ever done. Get used to disappointment." He slipped the key onto his ring. The manuscript rested against his side, no longer wrapped, no longer finished. Nathan drove away with it. This time, before he turned onto the road, he looked back. I stood in the driveway until his truck disappeared. The workshop key was gone from the bench. The red pencil remained. I sharpened it, swept the old shavings into my palm, and threw them away. Nathan did not call that night. He did not call the next day either. I drove back to the teaching apartment with no message from him and spent Sunday evening preparing a lesson on veneer repair that did not require me to use the phrase underlying damage. Monday passed, then Tuesday. On Wednesday morning, my phone buzzed while Malcolm was fitting the repaired leg onto the walnut table. Nathan had written 3 words. I pulled it. I read them until Malcolm said, "You planning to answer that, or are we waiting for the glue to develop self-esteem?" I put the phone away. "Dry fit it first." "You tell everybody that?" "Only people who want their tables to stand." At lunch, I went outside and called Nathan. He let it ring through. I left no voicemail. 10 minutes later, Paige called. "He's asleep," she said. "At noon, he hasn't slept much." "How is he? How do you think?" "I don't know. That's why I asked." She was quiet. I heard a door close on her end. "He sent the withdrawal last night," she said. "His editor called this morning. They're canceling the release date." "Canceling the book?" "Not yet. They gave him time to decide whether he can deliver something different, but the contract has to be renegotiated. He may have to repay part of the advance." I looked across the loading area. Malcolm and Rosa sat on the far curb sharing a bag of chips. Rosa gestured with both hands while Malcolm listened. "Did he pull it because of me?" I asked. "He pulled it because it wasn't the book he thought it was." "That sounds like something you told him." "No. I told him I wouldn't answer that question anymore." "What question?" "Whether he was ruining his life." A truck backed toward the dock, beeping at regular intervals. "Is he?" I asked. Paige exhaled. "I don't know, Daniel. He might be. Doing the right thing doesn't protect you from consequences." "I know. He asked me if you'd be satisfied. I'm not. What are you?" "Sorry. He won't believe that. I don't blame him. Maybe don't call again today." "All right. And don't offer money." "I wasn't going to." "You were thinking about it." "I had been." Paige knew me well enough to be dangerous. "The steps are fixed," she added. "Good. Nathan did them? Did he use pressure-treated lumber?" "Yes." "Exterior screws?" "Daniel." "Sorry." Her voice softened. "He watched 6 videos and swore for most of a Saturday." "That sounds structurally sound. He's proud of them. I'm proud of him. Tell him later." After we hung up, I returned to the shop. Malcolm had glued the table leg without waiting for me. "You dry fit it?" I asked. "Yes." "Square?" "Yes." "Clamp pressure?" "Moderate and emotionally available." Rosa lifted her coffee in approval. I inspected the joint. It was good. "You don't need me?" I said. Malcolm's smile faded slightly. "Don't get dramatic." The week after Nathan withdrew the manuscript, people called me as if I controlled what happened next. Carol said he had stopped answering her questions. Ron asked whether I knew a good way to approach him, then caught himself and laughed without humor. Leah called to say Nathan had accused her of choosing me over him. She told him that refusing to be misquoted was not a side. I listened. I did not interpret. It was harder than fixing anything. When Carol said, "You could tell him you don't expect a complete rewrite," I asked, "Do I get to decide that?" "No," she admitted. When Ron asked whether he should take Nathan to lunch, I said, "Ask Nathan." When Leah said, "Can you please tell me he'll get over this?" I told her, "I can't." "You're terrible at comfort," she said. "I've been told." But improving. That sounded reluctant. It was. Nathan finally called on a Thursday evening. "I have to send back money," he said. I heard. "From Paige?" "Yes." "She shouldn't have called you." "She was worried. She thinks I did something noble." "Did you?" "I did something late. Those aren't mutually exclusive." He laughed bitterly. "My editor says the old manuscript had momentum. The new one has questions." "What do you think?" "I think questions are harder to sell." "Probably. You could pretend otherwise. I don't know enough about publishing to lie convincingly. I don't know if I can write a different version. You don't have to. And do what? Go back to essays about coffee shops and people who annoy me in airports? You were good at those. You read them? Most. A pause. You never said. You didn't ask. The moment the words left me, I heard what they sounded like. Nathan did too. "Right," he said. "That was unfair. It was accurate. So was a lot of your book." He went quiet. I sat at the small beige table. The lobster magnet held a grocery receipt on the refrigerator behind me. "I should have told you I read your work," I said. "I thought you knew." "Why would I know?" "Because I did." "That's not how knowing works." "No?" He breathed slowly. "Did you like it?" he asked. "Yes." "Even the essay about you?" "Especially that one at first." "At first?" "I thought it was affection sharpened for strangers." "I didn't understand you were building a case." "I didn't either. That was the nearest we came to peace for several weeks." Nathan started sending questions by email. "Did you come to the apartment the day Melissa moved out, or the day after?" "The day after." "You weren't home. I left groceries with the manager." "Did Mom ever ask you to come to Sunday dinner after she married Ron?" "Twice. I declined once. The second time I was working." "Why did you stop the Wednesday dinners? I thought you and Leah didn't want them." "I never asked." Some questions had answers, some had competing memories. When Nathan asked what Carol had said during an argument in 1998, I told him I remembered the anger, but not the words. He replied, "The old draft had 12 lines of dialogue there." I wrote, "That should worry you." He answered, "It does." I did not edit pages. I did not ask when the new book would be finished. He did not ask again for a statement. The restoration course entered its final weeks. Judith completed the cabinet and opened its repaired drawer 12 times in a row. Rosa restored a set of dining chairs that had belonged to her former business partner, then invited the woman to collect 2 of them. She called it shared custody, saw my face, and changed it to a furniture arrangement. Malcolm's brother came to the final class. I recognized him before Malcolm introduced us. The 2 men had the same shoulders and the same habit of standing with their feet turned outward. His name was Curtis. He walked around the walnut table without touching it. "You left the dent," he said. "Yeah," Malcolm replied. "I thought you'd fix it." "I fixed what kept it from standing." Curtis ran 2 fingers over the mark in the apron. "I'm sorry I threw it." Malcolm looked at him. The entire class became interested in other objects. "You said that on the phone," Malcolm replied. "No, I said I shouldn't have thrown it. That's close. It isn't." Malcolm smiled. Curtis helped him carry the table to the truck. At the final class, the students gave me a new tape measure with a brass plate glued to the side. Judith had engraved it. "Measure the object, not the story." "The hook is already loose," I said. She stared at me. "I'm kidding. You're bad at receiving gifts. I'm aware. Elaine asked me to teach another course in the spring. I told her I would consider it." She said, "That means no in Daniel. It means I'll consider it." What changed? I learned words have definitions. I accepted the course 3 days later, but only 2 days a week. I would drive in. The apartment could return to being entirely beige without me. Leah helped me unpack at home. She removed shirts from the green suitcase and held one up. "You didn't wear this? How do you know?" "It's still folded the way I folded it. I could have replicated your technique. You own 47 pencils and pack 1 shirt. Balance." She found the magnetic level between 2 books. "You used it? The shop tables are square. That isn't what I asked." "No." I kept it on the apartment counter. Leah smiled. We ordered food instead of cooking. While we ate at my kitchen table, she told me Carol and Ron had started seeing a counselor. "Ron says Mom has weaponized the phrase emotional truth," she said. Against whom? Mostly herself. How's Nathan? Ask him. I looked at her. She raised both hands. Sorry, habit. I called him after she left. He didn't answer, but he called back an hour later. For the first time, neither of us began with a problem. The months that followed did not produce a miraculous family. Carol still defended herself before anyone accused her. Ron still tried to soften every room he entered. Leah still translated people who had not asked for translation. I still felt useful whenever someone needed a shelf, and suspicious whenever they only wanted dinner. Nathan wrote, sometimes he vanished for 2 weeks. Sometimes he called 3 nights in a row to ask about a single afternoon. He began bringing Paige into those calls because, as she put it, one of you has to remember the question. The revised book grew slower and less certain. Nathan removed the title his editor had bought. He stopped calling it a story of survival. He did not tell me what he called it instead. A spring storm tore 2 boards loose from my back porch. I carried a pry bar outside, lifted one board, and saw rot along the joist beneath it. My first instinct was to repair everything before anyone noticed. I put the board back. Caution tape would have been excessive, so I set 2 patio chairs across the weak section. Then I called a contractor and learned he could not come for a month. The porch remained damaged as my 69th birthday approached. Leah asked whether I wanted the family at my house again. I thought last year settled that question. It settled that brown paper is banned. Reasonable? Chocolate or vanilla? Chocolate, she waited. And vanilla, I said. Growth. The morning before the party, Nathan sent a message. I have something for you. I looked through the kitchen window at the 2 chairs blocking the damaged boards. I wrote, if it's wrapped, leave it in the truck. He replied almost immediately. It isn't finished enough to wrap. That answer kept me from sleeping more effectively than any threat could have. By noon, I had moved the patio chairs twice. They blocked the damaged section of porch, but also made the yard look as if 2 people had been seated there and vanished mid-conversation. Leah arrived carrying both cakes. You know, bakeries sell these, I said. They also sell birthday cards, but Ron insists on choosing those personally. She opened the refrigerator and rearranged everything without permission. Did Nathan tell you what he's bringing? No. Did you ask? He said it wasn't finished enough to wrap. That could describe him. Be kind. I am. He'd agree. Leah set the chocolate cake on the counter and inspected the porch through the window. You still haven't fixed those boards. I called someone. She turned slowly. You called a professional? Apparently, I am capable of growth once a year. You are a professional, not this week. The chairs are a nice touch, very subtle. I considered yellow tape. You would have added a diagram. The side gate opened before I could defend myself. Ron entered carrying a gift bag printed with balloons. Carol followed with a bowl covered in foil. You brought food, Leah said. It's pasta salad, Carol replied. We have potato salad, then people have options. Choice is a human right, I said. Carol gave me a look that had softened around the edges over the past year. Ron handed me the bag. Open it before Nathan gets here. Inside was a coffee grinder and a bag of beans from a local shop. I have coffee, I said. You have an ongoing grievance against coffee. It wakes people up. So does a fire alarm. We don't pour one into a mug. Carol touched Ron's arm. Let him try it before you explain flavor. I know flavor. You think burnt is a flavor. It's a condition, Ron said. They had started standing close again. Not the polished closeness they used in photographs, but the unconscious kind, her hand finding his sleeve, his body turning when she spoke. Counseling had not made them gentler, so much as less efficient at pretending. Carol set the pasta salad beside Leah's potato salad. I read Nathan's chapter about the divorce, she said, without looking at me. The new one? Yes. And I don't like myself in it. That doesn't make it wrong, I know. She adjusted the foil around the bowl. He included that I asked you to leave. Good. And that you were relieved. That was my part. I told him he could use it. She looked at me then. I'm sorry I made your silence carry everything I didn't want to admit. There were apologies that asked to be received beautifully. Carol's did not. It came out stiff, almost irritated, as if she resented the need for it, but not the truth. I'm sorry I let you, I said. That isn't enough. No. You could have corrected me. Yes. You could have fought for them. Yes. Her eyes narrowed. You're still very annoying when you agree. I've had practice. She almost smiled. Ron pretended to be fascinated by the coffee grinder. The gate opened again. Paige came through first with a bottle of lemonade and a bouquet of grocery store flowers. Nathan followed carrying the canvas bag. No brown paper. No string. He had cut his hair shorter. He looked thinner than he had in the workshop, though not unhappy. Tired, maybe. He held the bag with both hands, not tucked under one arm, as he had the first manuscript. "Happy birthday," he said. "Thank you." He glanced toward the two chairs blocking the porch. What happened? Storm loosened the boards. "You fixed them? Do they look fixed?" "They look supervised." Paige hugged me. I made him leave it in the truck until I confirmed there was no wrapping paper. Safety first. Nathan carried the bag inside. For the next hour, nobody mentioned it. We ate in the backyard. Ron grilled because he had spent the year learning to do one thing with fire besides call me. He burned the first 2 burgers, called them samples, and improved the third. Nathan and Leah argued over which pasta salad was better. Carol claimed not to care, then became offended when hers lost by 1 vote. Paige accused Ron of voting twice. Ron admitted nothing. The manuscript remained beneath the kitchen table. I could see the corner of the bag through the open door. Nathan saw me looking. "After cake," he said. I didn't ask. "You were staring at my floor. Did it disappoint you?" "Crooked in places." He laughed. Leah brought out the chocolate cake first and the vanilla second. The singing was loud, badly synchronized, and short enough to survive. I blew out the candles before anyone could ask what I wished for. Nathan waited until the plates were nearly empty. Then he stood, retrieved the canvas bag, and placed it on the patio table. Conversation stopped. The new manuscript was thicker than the first and less handsome. It had a clear plastic cover, black spiral binding, and handwritten corrections visible beneath several tabs. The title page read, "The Things We Called Leaving." My name did not appear on it. "It's not published," Nathan said. "It may never be." Carol started to speak, but Ron touched her wrist. Nathan kept his eyes on me. "The old contract is gone," he continued. "My editor agreed to read this when it's ready. She didn't promise anything. I gave back part of the advance, and I told the publicity people they couldn't use the family material. I looked at the pages. "That cost you," I said. "Yes." "I'm sorry, I know." He said it without bitterness. "This isn't an apology gift," he continued. "It isn't proof that everything's fixed. It's not the truth with a capital T. What is it? The version I can stand behind." The family stayed very still around us. Nathan placed one hand on the cover. Leah read her sections, he said. Mom read hers. Ron read his. Paige read all of it, which nearly ended our marriage but improved several chapters. Paige lifted her lemonade. I charged by the argument. Nathan smiled at her, then looked back at me. "You're the last person." "Why?" "Because I needed to know I could write it without making your approval the ending." The answer hurt slightly. That was how I knew it was probably healthy. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "Read it, don't read it, burn it if you want. Spiral binding shouldn't be burned." Nathan closed his eyes. "Fumes," I explained. "I brought you 300 pages and you're worried about plastic fumes. I'm considering the environment." Leah laughed first. Paige followed. Even Carol smiled into her cake. I picked up the manuscript. It had weight. Not the polished ceremonial weight of the first one. This felt handled, worked on. Several page corners were bent. A coffee ring marked the back cover. I opened it from the wrong end. Nathan watched my face. The acknowledgments covered 2 pages now. Carol was thanked for surviving the marriage without being described as surviving me. Ron's paragraph called him the man who stayed, and who never asked me to make his staying mean someone else had not. Leah was thanked for refusing to become a supporting character in her own memories. Paige got 6 lines, including one about decorative pillows. Then I reached my name. To my father, Daniel, who stayed in every way he understood, left in ways he did not, and finally taught me that love without honesty becomes a story somebody else will tell for you. Below it, in handwriting, Nathan had added, "You may still disagree after page 1. I read the paragraph again. Nobody asked what it said. They had all read it already." Nathan rubbed his palms against his jeans. "Well, it's a better binding." His face fell for half a second. Then I closed the manuscript. "I don't know yet," I said. It's 300 pages. 312? That's worse. You don't have to say anything today. Good. He nodded. I set the pages beside the birthday cards. Ron's card had a dog and reading glasses sitting in front of a cake. Inside, it said I was not old, just well footnoted. Nathan remained standing across the table. The acknowledgement did not erase the first one. It did not return the lost release date, or the money, or the months Paige had spent living beside a man who believed revision was the same as ruin. It did not repair the night I drove away, the graduation photograph we never took, or the hospital chair Nathan woke to find empty. It was one paragraph, a good one. I looked toward the porch. Did you bring work clothes? Nathan blinked. What? The boards. You said you called someone. He can't come for a month. You want me to fix your porch on your birthday? No. I stood and went into the workshop. The work gloves hung from a peg beside the door. I took down 2 pairs. When I returned, Nathan had followed me inside. The shop key hung on his ring. I thought you said no, he said. I want you to help me. That sounds like fixing. It's different. How? I asked. He considered that. I handed him the gloves. These are too big, he said. Your hands haven't changed since last year. They were too big then. You never complained. I wrote a book, apparently. He put them on. We moved the patio chairs and lifted the first loose board. The rod along the joist had spread farther than I expected. Nathan crouched beside it. That's not good. A technical assessment. We'll have to cut back to solid wood. Yes. Maybe sister the joist. I looked at him. What? He asked. I watched videos for the steps. 6, according to Paige. 8. You've been holding out. He measured the damage section. I measured it after him. You don't trust me? He asked. I don't trust that tape. It's yours. That proves nothing. His measurement was right. We carried lumber from the workshop. Nathan wanted to replace only the visible damage. I wanted to open another section and inspect beneath it. We argued for 10 minutes. Inside, I heard Leah say, "They're fine." Carol replied, "Nobody said they weren't. You were looking through the window. I'm allowed to look." Ron turned up the radio. Nathan set the pry bar beneath the next board. "You always do this," he said. "What?" "Assume there's more damage than anybody can see. Wood doesn't improve because you ignore it. Neither does a birthday. You brought a manuscript." He laughed. We opened the second section. The joist beneath it was solid. "You happy?" he asked. "Yes." "Because you were right, because there's less to fix." He sat back on his heels. The late afternoon light entered through the workshop windows and stretched across the floor. Dust moved inside it. The vent rattled once, then settled. "I almost didn't come," Nathan said. "Why?" "I thought you'd read the acknowledgement and forgive me in front of everyone. That would have been convenient." "I was afraid you would." "I understood." Forgiveness offered too quickly could become another way of ending a conversation before it reached anything difficult. "I'm still angry," I said. "I know. I haven't read the book. I know. You may have gotten things wrong again. I did. You know which things?" "No." "Then why say you did?" "Because 312 pages." I nodded. "Fair." He looked through the open workshop door at the manuscript on the patio table. "I didn't write that last paragraph, so you'd forgive me." "Why did you write it?" "Because it was true when I wrote it. And now?" "Ask me after you read page 1. I picked up the new board and set it across the sawhorses. Nathan marked the cut. His pencil line was thick and slightly crooked. "You're outside the measurement," I said. I left the room for the blade. Too much. "It's a 16th. It's an emotional 16th. He stared at me, then laughed hard enough to bend over. I laughed too. We cut the board. It was too long. Nathan held it over the opening, one end raised. "Your measurement," he said. "Your line. Your saw." Shared failure? That sounds less marketable. Most true things are. We carried it back to the sawhorses and marked it again. This time, I let Nathan hold the tape. He let me draw the line. The family's voices drifted from inside, Carol objecting to the music, Leah telling her to stop adjusting the food, Ron searching for a container nobody had moved, Paige finding it directly in front of him. Nathan and I worked without hurrying. When we lowered the board into place, it fit. Not perfectly. One corner sat high enough to catch a shoe if we left it. Nathan reached for the drill. "Wait," I said. He stopped. I showed him where the joist twisted and how the screw would pull the board down if we started from the center. He listened without pretending he already knew. Then he drove the first screw. The head sank slightly below the wood. Too deep, I said. I know. He backed it out a fraction. Better? Yes. He drove the second screw and handed me the drill. For a moment, neither of us reached for the next board. You staying for dinner? I asked. Nathan looked toward the house. Are you asking because you need help cleaning up? No. Because the porch isn't finished? No. Then why? I could have made a joke, because I want you to stay. He nodded. All right. I picked up the next board. Nathan took the other end. Together, we carried it toward the opening.